That's another governance rules change that we need to.
Good evening everyone and welcome to another council meeting for Monday the 26th of June 2023. Item 1, meeting opening. Item 1.1, attendance. Ms Weatherall, are there any apologies this evening?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Councillor Jim Mametti is an apology for this evening.
Thank you. Item 1.2, acknowledgement of traditional custodians of the land. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Bunurong people, and pay respect to their elders past and present. We recognise and respect their continuing connections to climate, culture, country and waters, and we also pay our respect and acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and their elders present here today in acknowledging their journey. I'd also like to make a statement on the passing of Simon Crean. We are deeply saddened by the sudden and unexpected passing of the Honourable Simon Crean. Mr Crean was a strong advocate for the Greater Dandenong community and entire South East region, having served on the board of Greater South East Melbourne, GSEM, a group which advocates for jobs, infrastructure, investment and wellbeing for the South East. He served as Hotham's MP for 23 years before his retirement, and his tireless service has had a lasting impact on our community. Simon served honouring our culturally diverse community and championing opportunities for people to thrive and prosper in their personal and professional lives. Our deepest condolences to Simon's wife, Carol, his daughters Sarah and Emma, and his extended family. Vale Simon Crean. (1.3) Offering of prayer, reflection or affirmation. As part of Council's commitment to recognising the cultural and spiritual diversity of our community, the prayer, reflection or affirmation this evening will be offered on behalf of Mrs Ros Blades AM from the Jewish community, a member of the Greater Dandenong Interfaith Network, and the prayer will be read out by Councillor Garrard. Please stand.
Hello Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Blessed be his name, whose glorious kingdom is forever and ever. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God, and with all thine heart, with all thine soul, and with all thine might. And these words which I command thee this day shall be upon thine heart, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk to them when they sit in thine house, when they walk is by the way. God of all that lives, please bestow your spirit on the inhabitants of the city of Greater Dandenong and plant love, fellowship, peace and friendship between the different nationalities that dwell within our boundaries. Uproot from their heart all dislike, animosity and strife in order to fulfil the longings of its people who aspire for its dignity and desire to see it as light for all our nations.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Item 1.4, confirmation of minutes of previous meeting.
Seconded.
Moved by Councillor Garrard, seconded by Councillor Tan. Are there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item 1.5, disclosures of interest. Ms Weatherall, are there any disclosures of interest tonight?
No, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Item 2, Officers' Reports Part 1, 2.1, Documents for Tabling 2.1.1 petitions and joint letters.
Happy to move that.
Moved by Councillor Trung, seconded by Deputy Mayor Councillor Formoso. Are there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item 2.2, statutory planning applications. 2.2.1, planning delegated decisions issued May 2023. Moved by Councillor Long, seconded by Councillor Garrard. Are there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item 2.2.2, planning decisions issued by Planning Minister's Delegate May 2023. Moved by Councillor Garrard, seconded by Councillor Long. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item 3, question time public. I'd just like to remind everyone here tonight that public question time in the agenda is limited in duration to 20 minutes. So to try and keep to this time, I remind anyone in the gallery who has asked to read out their question or questions tonight that no debate or discussion of a question or answer is permitted under Council's governance rules unless, of course, clarification is necessary. So, Ms Weatherall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And our first question tonight is from Mark Dalton of Melton West on council spending. At the latest council meeting, the cost of sending out information to residents over a matter was suggested to be $20,000. I'm wondering why it needs to cost anything when council sends a glossy magazine to all residences once a month. Why is it not used to better advantage? Due to the local newspaper change into digital format, it cannot be relied on anymore to deliver important council decisions such as property sales. Can I ask our Executive Manager, Communications and Customer Service, Ms Sprague, to answer, please?
Thank you. Ms Sprague, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, thank you for that question, Mark. Council does send a magazine to all households each month and would certainly use that to promote such a consultation, time permitting. However, the notice of motion referred to here was quite specific about the method used being stamped and personally addressed letters via Australia Post to residents in Keysborough South. At this stage, that work hasn't been fully and accurately costed, but it will be shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Sprague. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Next question from Philip Lamaro of Dandenong concerning tree planting in Dandenong. A few years ago, Council spent over $700,000 on sealing the parking lot and lighting at the old Dandenong Cattle Market on Cheltenham Road, Dandenong. There are large lawn areas, but no trees were planted, with Greater Dandenong having such low tree canopy compared to other areas and are very vocal about increasing it. I'm confused why Council didn't plant trees here. If Council believes it's worth that amount of money, I assume it's not a temporary car park, so why were there no trees planted on this site? If Council do plan to plant trees, when will they be planted? Can I ask Mr Kersley, Director, Business Engineering and Major Projects, to respond, please?
Thank you. Mr Kersley, please.
Thank you for the question, Mr Lamaro. I can advise that the Carroll Lane car park was constructed as a temporary facility pending the future development of this site for the proposed Dandenong Sports and Events Centre. Should this project not proceed in the future, the land would likely be used for its original intended purpose, which would be residential apartments. In either case, the planting of trees at this particular time on this site is not supported, as they would more than likely need to be cut down at some stage in the future. This car park is currently licensed to the state government for the purposes of commuter parking. Council has a tree planting plan for central Dandenong that identifies opportunities for the planting of new trees in locations that allow them to fully mature. This accords with our urban forest strategy and desire to increase the tree canopy cover and reduce the heat island effects in our busy activity centres. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kersley. Ms Weatherall.
We have another question from Mr Lamaro of Dandenong concerning tree planting in Dandenong. The council car park on Oldham Lane, Dandenong, is large, hasn't had a single tree planted in the area. In the many decades council's managed the area, they've never planted any trees here, going against all council policies and promises of increasing Dandenong's tree canopy. In over 50 years, council's managed this car park. Why has it not planted a single tree? Why have most other central Dandenong council car parks been improved with tree planting except this one? When will the area have trees planted like the other council car parks? Does council feel morally okay that they profiteer off one of the largest industrial areas when it's one of the biggest carbon producers in Australia, but is not close to tree planting to combat the horrific environmental damage it causes? Can I ask Mr Kersley to respond again, please?
Thank you. Mr Kearsley, please.
Thank you again, Mr Lamaro. With regards to the Idle Lane car park, whilst providing at-grade car parking has been the subject of a feasibility study that could see multi-deck car parking structure built on this land to increase the supply of parking in central Dandenong, this matter has yet to be fully considered by Council. Whilst current parking demand post-COVID does not currently warrant this type of investment, it is likely that an option that Council may consider in the foreseeable future. The planting of trees on this site is not supported, as they would likely to need to be removed or cut down at some point in the future. As previously advised, Council has a tree planting plan for central Dandenong, which identifies opportunities for planting new trees in locations that fully accords with our urban forest strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And our next question is from Matthew Kerwin of Noble Park concerning Namur Street Park in Noble Park. I've been reading about the fascinating life of Edith Eileen McPherson, 1898 to 1984, who bequeathed the park in Namur Street, Noble Park, that bears her name to Dandenong City Council in her will. Her and her husband, Ernesto Giannoni, operated a biodynamic and organic experimental farm known as Dementa Farm for 2 decades in Princess Highway, Dandenong. They were both members of Rudolf Steiner's experimental circle based in Europe, and their farming practices evolved from there. In her retirement, Edith, known as Eileen, maintained a much smaller hobby farm at the Namur Street property. Known as a pioneer of organic farming in Australia, could an interpretive sign be developed and installed at the park on Namur Street so that visitors to the park, which is a popular playground, are aware they have a notable Australian woman previously living in our municipality? Can I ask Mr Kersley to respond, please?
Thank you, Mr Kearsley.
I thank Mr Kerwin for the question and for sharing some of Edith Eileen McPherson's fascinating life accomplishments. Council's Parks and Open Space planning teams will further investigate the request for an interpretive sign at this reserve. It would be helpful if you have any information, if you could send that through to myself, or any research that you have on Edith McPherson in order for us to facilitate this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And we have another question from Matthew Kerwin of Noble Park concerning 51A Douglas Street, Noble Park. The recent ministerial decision to fast-track the approval of a mixed-use 6-storey building at 51A Douglas Street, Noble Park leaves residents in the dark. The documents on the Department of Planning and Transport website give little information. 10% of dwellings will be set aside for key workers or disability accommodation providers, but that leaves it open as to whether there will be much needed social housing provided or none at all. And if there is an agreed mix between key workers and social housing, what is it? The additional tree protection measures are not revealed, nor are they negotiated final plans. This is a very impactful development for Central Noble Park. As Council now have the responsibility of approving the final permit, how will Council be making the details, including final plans, the application known to residents, and what's the expected time frame for that? Can I ask our Director City Planning, Design and Amenity, Mr Bosman, to respond, please?
Thank you. Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you to yourself, to Mr Kerwin. Firstly, Council officers would like to reiterate disappointment in the process and the decision of the Minister for Planning at this particular site, effectively ignoring Council's submissions on the proposed development. And to this extent, officers have written now a number of times since that decision to the Department of Transport and Planning, highlighting this concern and also seeking clarification on how they considered the proposed development to accord with the Greater Dandenong planning scheme, and in particular how they considered it to accord with the Noble Park structure plan. The conditions imposed on the permit by the Minister only require very minor changes, and as such the proposal will likely end up being very similar to the plans that were exhibited. Unfortunately, Council has no ability to seek additional changes from what the Minister has approved, and nor is there any power for Council to further advertise the plans to the community. As to when these plans and documents will be lodged, this will be up to the developer. The permit states, and that's the permit that has been issued by the Minister, or instructed to be issued by the Minister, states that they have 4 years to commence the development, and these documents are required to be submitted and approved prior to the commencement of that development. And as such, a clear timeframe cannot be provided at this stage. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Bosman. Ms Weatherall, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Now, our last question again is from Matthew Kerwin of Noble Park concerning shopping strip works at Railway Parade, Noble Park. There's 3 parts. When are the works going to be completed? Second part, with the concrete wall that remains to be built, has the appearance of the large, bulky concrete wall going to be softened so it's not an eyesore? And the third part, what is the latest with the anticipated construction of the traffic calming devices in Railway Parade between Eastlink and Chandler Roads? Specifically, how will they address the safety of the Liege Avenue Railway Parade intersection, which is much more about poor line of sight as it is about speeds? Can I ask Mr Kersley to respond, please?
Thank you, Mr Kearsley.
And thank you, Mr Kerwin, for your questions. I can advise with regards to question 1 that there have been slight delays in the delivery of customised street furniture, which has now been secured, and we understand that the installation is planned to resume tomorrow, and all works are expected to be completed by the 17th of July 2023. With regards to question 2, the concrete seats to be installed in the shopping strip will be softened by the surrounding landscape as designed. And with regards to question 3, the project is at the detailed design stage and construction is expected to be completed by December 2023. The treatment to be installed at Liege Avenue and Railway Parade is a raised intersection with parking lanes formerly marked along Railway Parade. The raised intersection will slow traffic at this location, whilst the marked parking lanes will move through traffic away from the curb on Railway Parade. This will allow vehicles exiting from Liege Avenue to move into the intersection a little further to improve their visibility of approaching traffic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Is Mr Tom Mason from Noble Park in the gallery tonight? Not at this stage. Madam Mayor, would you like me to read his question?
Yes, please, Ms Weatherall.
Okay. The recent resurfacing of the Ross Reserve off-lead area has been an absolute waste of money. They have removed the grass and replaced it with coarse gravel and sand. After a heavy rain, it does not drain and pools everywhere. As the only off-lead area in Noble Park, the site has become unsafe for our animals as they slip and slide when they run. They cannot roll around on the gravel after play session. They're often limping due to unnecessary cuts and grazes. My question's in 3 parts. 1, why was the grass removed and replaced with sharp gravel and sand? 2, will council be willing to pay for an animal's vet bill should they get hurt if it's the only off-lead area in Noble Park? And 3, what will council do to rectify the situation? Can I ask Mr Bosman to respond, please? Mr Kersley, sorry.
Thank you. Mr Kearsley, please.
No, that's fine. Thank you, Mr Mason, for your questions. I can advise that Council recently completed a resurfacing project at the dog off leash area located under Skyrail in Ross Reserve Noble Park, as you refer to. The area had significant grass maintenance challenges due to its small size and heavily shaded location underneath the rail corridor. Over the last few years, the condition was continuing to deteriorate and complaints regarding service condition and safety were increasing. Public consultation was undertaken to seek feedback from residents regarding proposed changes to the surface in an effort to find a suitable long-term surface material, and through this process, granitic gravel was selected as the best option for this site. Council are now looking to add more elements to the space to further enhance the area for the dog users and the dogs. The area is maintained regularly to ensure service standards and intervention levels are met. There are various other public open space areas and dog off-leash parks located throughout the municipality should residents deem this specific area not suitable for their dog. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Now, I just want to make it clear, we've got a couple of questions tonight around cat curfew. So officers are proposing that the questions come up and ask their questions, and then Mr Bosman will respond to them as a collective. So the first speaker that we'd like to call to the microphone is Emeritus Professor Jackie Rand of Fig Tree Pocket, and she's got some feedback in regards to cat curfew.
I'm representing Emeritus Professor Jackie Rand, who is also Chief Scientist at Australian Pet Welfare Foundation. Am I too close? Is Mayor Foster and each councillor committed to introducing science-based policies and bylaws for effective urban cat management? Before voting on cat curfews, is Mayor Foster and each councillor prepared to read and consider the following published data and information? There are links that you can look at after each point. 1. Dandenong ranks in the worst quartile of councils for the proportion of impounded cats that are euthanised. 74% of cats were killed in 2018-19. 2. Most of the cats killed are healthy and born in the last 6 to 12 months. 3. 90% of the cats impounded in Dandenong were not reclaimed by owners. Most have no identification and no owners to contain them. 4. Based on data from other Victorian councils, mandated containment increases complaints, the number of cats impounded and killed, cost and exposure to mental health damage of staff at the Lost Dogs home. 5. Curfews prevent resolution of the wandering cat issue because they create barriers to Sami owners taking ownership of the stray cat they are feeding. The key solution to significantly reducing unwanted kittens being born and wandering cats. 6. Banyule introduced free sterilisation for cats and over 3 years decreased complaint calls by 64%. Impoundments by 61% and euthanasia by 74%, as well as decreasing costs. 7. 3 years after Yarra Rangers introduced mandated containment, complaint calls were still increased by 143%, impoundments by 68% and euthanasia by 18%. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As I said, we've got a number of questions on cat curfew. So our next question is from Ashley Morgan Shea of Upper Ferntree Gully, if she would like to come forward and read out her question.
Representing myself this time.
Thank you, Ms Morgan.
Australian Pet Welfare Foundation evidence shows mandated containment does not work. It farms kittens to kill, places shelter workers at suicide risk as high as firefighters, and Banyule Council assessed in federal report that the trapping and killing costs 6 times more than a community cat program. Banyule Council assessed that their community cat program total cost 2013 to 2020 was $60,000 as opposed to $397,500 that Banyule would have paid in cat pound contract in the same period. City of Greater Dandenong states its aim is for 24-hour curfew, beginning with a night curfew. Evidence shows this has failed in Casey and Yarra Ranges. Will Council consider instead a community cat program at 1/6 of the cost, proven to lower stray cat numbers quickly and lower complaints? And I will read my second question, shall I? Thanks. Council's cat survey consultation in March 2023 was open Australia-wide, allowing multiple responses from a person using different browsers or different devices anonymously. How many of the respondents were anonymous? And of those who were not anonymous, what steps were taken to ensure they are legitimate individual responses? For example, were the names and addresses checked against electoral rolls? If not, how is this a credible community survey? I have included links to my references below. I just forgot to include the latest research that was just published a couple of days ago, but I can forward that on to you because it's only just come out, the new articles from Australian Pet Welfare Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Morgan. Ms Weatherall?
Thank you. And our third contributor on cat curfew is Nicola Donovan of Port Melbourne. If she would like to come up to the microphone, please.
Thank you, councillors. My name's Nicola Donovan and I'm the President of Lawyers for Animals, but I'm speaking here in an individual capacity because I also undertake quite a lot of cat rescue, including intervention in wild cat colonies and rehoming and rehabilitation of those cats. There are two core scientific phenomena applicable to controlling cat populations and wildlife predation: territoriality and reproductive rebound. Territoriality causes cats to guard territory, including all potential food, including wildlife, from other cats. Fully fed and desexed pet cats have far less motivation to kill wildlife than fertile stray cats. Reproductive rebound is the natural phenomenon whereby fertile stray cats increase the population when available food increases. A 24-hour cat curfew leaves the territory and food, including wildlife, previously guarded by pet cats, vacant for fertile stray cats. With more territory to hunt, more food scraps and direct feed available, remembering that up to 9% of people feed cats that they do not own daily. Stray cats will bear more kittens more often, and more of those kittens will survive to breed. They only need to be 3 months old to begin breeding. Emeritus Professor Rand reports that to achieve any long-term stray cat population reduction by killing the minimum proportion of fertile stray cats that must be killed every 6 months over the course of 10 years is 30 to 50%. Currently, only around 2% of stray cats in Greater Melbourne, so that's including Dandenong and all other councils, 2% across Greater Melbourne, are captured every 6 months. Most of those are kittens. It's time-intensive, expensive work. Every council in Greater Melbourne will need to catch and kill 15 to 25 times more fertile stray cats every 6 months to stop the stray cat population in Greater Dandenong increasing threefold under a curfew. That's because of rebound and because of territoriality. Councillors, can you please advise why you plan, I understand you plan, to ignore the scientific facts of reproductive rebound and territoriality to support a cat curfew, and how you'll fund the extra 15 to 20% of stray cat trap and kill to avoid a threefold increase in the stray cat population. I have a second question. It's only short. Are councillors aware that unsocialised stray cats can and are regularly tamed and socialised to become wonderful companion animals? I can attest to this after personally capturing and taming 8 adult breeding aged cats, plus 6 of their kittens, from a wild cat colony in Meadow Heights in 2018-19. It took many days to capture those cats, many nights I should say, and actually a very experienced cat catcher helping me. 10 of these cats were successfully rehomed, One was sadly killed when hit by a car in 2019, and I wound up adopting the two who were slowest to be tamed, and they're now wonderful, affectionate companions. So just in case people thought that wildcats were incapable of being socialised, it's simply not true. And Maniki Neko Cat Rescue, through whom, under whose auspices I rescue, know this very well. They're the biggest rescue group in Victoria. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms Donovan. I'll put the questions to the Director of Planning, Design and Amenity. Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you, and through yourself to all of the questioners. Thank them for their questions and the opportunity this gives to provide information and help set the record straight on a number of issues. Firstly, all of the data and argument presented by tonight's questioners has been considered by officers in the process of making the dusk to dawn curfew recommendation to Council. And as you will hear as I go through my response, the curfew is already part of the cat management strategy. It's just one part of a suite of tools. It is not the strategy in and of itself. And I fully agree that cat curfews in and of themselves will not solve the problem of cat wandering and the destructive impact it has on local fauna. In fact, research, and we're talking about evidence-based and research by the Australian National University estimates that each domestic cat will kill around 75 animals per year. This is why in CGD's case, the cat curfew is only one part of a broader, more comprehensive suite of actions set out in its adopted cat management strategy, which goes further than any of those by any of the municipalities mentioned in Jackie Rand's examples. It is in fact the most closely aligned with the example of Banyule City Council, which Jackie Rand mentions as a good example. And in our adopted cat management strategy, we cite it as a case study to draw inspiration from. The CGD strategy, I believe, sets a new benchmark for local government in addressing cat management and cat ownership. Council has made considerable change to its domestic animal management plan to address cat overpopulation within the municipality. And part of this change was to develop the cat management strategy of 2022, which was adopted by Council on the 27th of June of last year. The domestic animal management plan, while used in conjunction with the new strategy, encourages community involvement through education programs and programs and works towards developing a more educated, united community. Council has a focus on driving initiatives such as no-fee registration, subsidised desexing, and strong foster networks to convert the high number of semi-owned cats into desexed owned cats, not dissimilar to the initiatives and ideas that we've been heard as being desirable tonight. That is already part of our cat management strategy. It is understood that to achieve its goals, Council must partner with the community and industry leaders with a shared vision to truly succeed. Listed below, and I'm going to take you through a list, and I'm sorry that the answer is as long as it is. I don't normally give an answer this long, but I think it's quite it deserves an answer in response to the length of the submissions that have been made. And I'm going to introduce the initiatives being introduced as part of Council's program. Firstly, strengthening community ownership of the cat overpopulation issue through education. Expansion and development of existing foster care networks. Expansion of and strengthened relationships with the veterinary practices and those who are called 84Y agreements. Partnered, subsidised desexing programs with the Australian Vet Association, the AVA. No fee first-time registration. A permanent amnesty on existing pet owners registering and encouraging existing owners or those feeding semi-owned cats to register. Microchip database comparison to encourage registration. Streamlined registration process, expanded cat trapping program, and then a nighttime cat curfew. It's just part and parcel of many. When talking about the cat curfew itself, and you might hear some points that are repeated, the proposed cat curfew, as I said, is just one small part of a suite of tools contained in the strategy and is not the first resort. The post-cat curfew is a dusk to dawn. It's a nighttime curfew, not a 24-hour curfew. And if one reads the report that's in the council agenda, it doesn't say that it's a dusk to dawn with a view of going 24 hours. It says we will assess its effectiveness, its efficacy, and thereafter make a decision whether we keep it in place or we consider a 24-hour. The CAT strategy does have a number of other strong elements, as I mentioned, supported desexing, supported registration, education, and encouraging greater ownership of semi-owned cats. Within the submissions that were made, there was some talk and some mention of walking of cats on leashes, and well, certainly CGD's cat strategy and cat curfew does not suggest at any stage that we need to be walking cats on leashes. CGD's approved cat strategy is indeed, and we were talking about, and the question was asked by one of the questioners about a community cat program. Why can't we have a community cat program? And in fact, our cat strategy is very much that. It's about engaging the community. It's about getting out there. It's about a community cat program. Again, the question, it's by Knox Advocates and by Jackie Rand, why not protect environmental areas with cat-proof fencing and keep out foxes and dogs too? Is ironically answered by the cat curfew itself. Keeping cats in at home between dusk and dawn, nighttime, is cat-proofing to protect the environment. Council has other measures in place which addresses the problems of foxes and other feral animals that harm the local fauna as well. And there's a strong evidence base which supports that cats, including domestic cats, cause the deaths of many thousands of animals per year. Hence this council having a comprehensive cat strategy which amongst other measures includes the suggested dusk to dawn curfew. Nothing in the CGD approved cat strategy is designed to be fanning hate speech towards felines, I quote. Quite the contrary, the whole of community and whole of strategy approach to cat ownership and cat management will see a more positive perception of cats coming to the fore. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and to the questioners.
Thank you, Mr Bosman. Ms Weatherall, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We now have two questions concerning Progress Street Dandenong South crossing removal. Can I first ask Andrew Hamer of Dandenong South to come up, and then after he speaks, I'll get the other speaker to also speak, and then Mr Kearsley will provide a response. So, Andrew Hamer, if you'd like to come up to the microphone, please.
Thank you, Mr Hamer.
Madam Mayor, councillors, executives, I know I've got a political can of worms here, and from the advice of the last time, we fully recognise that Council has no real input into the planning decisions made by the Victorian Government or the LXRP. However, Council is also informed that on Thursday a petition of 765 signatures was presented to the Assembly, the Legislative Assembly of the Victorian Government, that the Progress Street level crossing removal be suspended and an alternate solution found. That we could get so many signatures in 48 hours, I went out one day and picked them up the next day, shows the unanimous and universal support of every single business, employee, and shows the magnitude of the rejection of the solution currently proposed by the LXRP. Given this unprecedented result, the local community and ratepayers would like Council to officially reject the Progress Street closure solution outright and to lobby to keep our vital access route open for the interim. Will Council support us and table their objection to the closure of Progress Street on our behalf, on all 765 of us?
Would you like to continue with your second question that you have, Mr Hamer? Do you have a second?
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so the closure of Progress Street, if the closure goes ahead, the obvious community concern, as expressed in this petition that I've mentioned, is that the Fowler Road intersection with the South Gippsland Highway will be congested and dangerous. What are Council's contingency plans What are we going to do if we really are jammed in? We've got no alternate access. We are jammed in a little cocoon. What's the plan to alleviate that? Can we get council commitment to connect Progress Street to the bypass when it is built?
Thank you. Ms Weatherall?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Our second speaker on the same topic is Colin Smith of Dandenong, who's also going to present on Progress Street, Dandenong South crossing removal.
Thank you, Mr Smith.
Excuse me. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time. Look, my question is of the very same nature. It is recognising the petition of approximately 800 users and ratepayers against the LXRP proposed solution to close Progress Street. Will the City of Greater Dandenong support us in rejecting this dangerous solution outright and seek an alternative solution keeping vital Progress Street open?
Thank you, Mr Smith. I'll put the questions to the Director of Business Engineering and Major Projects, Mr Keasley, please.
Thank you, and thank you to you both again. I do understand the seriousness of the issue facing your businesses and others. What I can say too is congratulations on the work that you've done and that petition in terms of tabling it to the state government. As we've previously advised, this project is a state government project, and only they are the ones that can formally stop or commence this project. We are very much aware of the community concerns regarding this project, and we've actually requested the level crossing removal project to brief both our CEO and the councillors, which is expected, we hope, to occur in the next month or so. So we've made a formal request for them to come and brief council. This will provide the project team time to review the material and answers that we still seek from the LXRP with regards to their project. It will also allow us to further consider the concerns and provide detailed responses to the issues raised at last Thursday's community update meeting, along with a response to the petition and the concerns raised within the petition. It is anticipated Council will be in a more informed and better position to consider a formal statement on this level crossing project following the briefing. As I previously advised, any formality of a council response needs to be made essentially in this room by the councillors. With regards to your question 2 on the closure of Progress Street and how it could possibly link into the Dandenong bypass, I can advise that Council engineers will continue to review the designs to best encourage safety and address congestion along Fowler Road. If we do have concerns with that, we will certainly let the LXRP and others know of those issues. The South Gippsland Highway is managed by the Department of Transport and Planning, DTP. They are responsible for this intersection and to undertake these assessments, including the proposed signals at Fowler Road. The construction of the Dandenong bypass extension is a high priority road project Council is advocating to the state government to deliver. Should the state government fund this project, it will be delivered under a process similar to the Progress Street level crossing removal, in so being that it is under the control of the state government in terms of that project. We will have again a series of inputs into the design and completion of that project should it be funded by the state government. Council will advocate on behalf of businesses for the inclusion of a connection between Progress Street and the Dandenong bypass. However, only the state government and DTP are able to provide a commitment that it will be included when the Dandenong bypass extension is constructed. So as you can see, unfortunately, it's not necessarily an answer that you're going to like, but it's one where we will continue to advocate for. But again, I will reiterate that these are state government projects and we are allowed to participate just as any other party. And the important factor is the council briefing and then what council would want to do with its decision on Progress Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Keasley. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you. Our next question is from Pam Naylor of Noble Park, and it concerns the tree protection local law. She asks, when is the tree protection local law expected to come to council meeting for a decision, And Madam Mayor, the response is on the 10th of July 2023, which is the next meeting. Mr Naylor also has a second question concerning Tehatchawan Park, Dandenong North. When is consultation on the Nature Sensory Trail at Tehatchawan Park, Dandenong North expected to take place? Can I ask Mr Kersley to respond, please?
Thank you. Mr Kersley, please.
Thank you for your question. This project is currently unfunded within the council budget, and when funding becomes available, the standard public consultation process will occur with a publicly exhibited concept plan, advertised on council's website, and an opportunity for all residents to provide feedback for consideration in the detailed design. As soon as some funding does become available, we can certainly inform the local community and commence the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kersley. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you. And the last question from Tam Naylor concerns 218 Railway Parade, Noble Park. When is the consultation on concept plan for the site at 218 Railway Parade, Noble Park expected to begin? Can I ask Mr Bosman to respond, please?
Thank you. Mr Bosman, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and to Ms Naylor. Funding for the development of a concept plan and implementation of park infrastructure at 218 Railway Parade, Noble Park, is subject to the approval of the 2023-24 annual budget, which is to be considered later tonight in tonight's papers, in tonight's agenda. The draft budget allocates $80,000 for the development of a concept plan and to implement works within the park. Subject to approval of the draft budget in its current form later tonight, it is intended that a concept plan will be developed in September of this year, with consultation to follow before the end of the calendar year. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Bosman. Ms Weatherall, please.
Thank you. Our next question is from Gay Guest of Noble Park and concerns council staffing. At a recent advisory committee, a member asked about frequency of meetings being more successful to reach outcomes the more often they meet in a year, and this was agreed upon. However, at a second advisory committee meeting, staff said this wasn't possible because the community strengthening sector is understaffed and officers work part-time, which is disappointing because our stocks of Art Deco period homes are being bulldozed everywhere in City Greater Dandenong. Our local history needs to be preserved ASAP, and a new heritage study is imperative and continues to linger. Our heritage buildings cannot be open to the public weekly because of limited staff depending on where they're working. A hybrid model does not work either because when you email staff, you get a return email that says returning to work on certain days or holidaying and to contact another, and then the reply from that email address is the same. Gabrielle Williams summed it up in her speech on Friday that we can no longer afford seat warmers in positions of power, so I hope our CEO and directors can work quickly to fill the void as residents, like other municipalities, are now expecting and demanding better budget spending to cover full-time staff so that it can be contacted every working day. There are mixed messages when $22 million projects are being funded, yet we can't employ more staff at Band 6. While we realise master plans prepare for the future, you cannot say council's broke when we question how the budget is divided and some wards benefits more than others with major developments. When will this anomaly be corrected? And Mayor, I'll answer that myself.
Thank you.
I note that all Victorian local governments, including the City of Greater Dandenong, face a range of increasing financial challenges, including rising costs, the need for infrastructure maintenance and renewal, population growth, revenue constraints, rate capping, reliance on state and federal funding, cost shifting, infrastructure backlogs, compliance with regulations and meeting service demands and expectations. These cost pressures can strain local government budgets and financial resources, making it challenging to meet the growing needs of our communities in a range of areas. I appreciate the concerns as presented by Ms Guest and her passion that the City of Greater Dandenong can apply more resources to the areas as outlined. However, I feel I need to know more about the specific matters she describes and will follow up directly to specifically understand the examples in detail and then provide her a considered response which will also be available to the public. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Ms Weatherall. The next question.
And the last question from this evening, again from Gay Guest of Noble Park, concerns Madeira Way in Noble Park. Who's responsible for Madeira Way, Noble Park? Drivers are now allowing passengers to alight on the wrong side of the road on the rail car park side. Drivers are also using the bus spaces to let passengers alight. When there are two buses and a car, in between the second bus hangs out blocking the road. Drivers are doing U-turns in Madeira Way itself or using the Mons Parade intersection. All this with students darting across the road in front of parked cars and buses so they cannot be seen by cars approaching that intersection. There is no pedestrian crossing there. Similarly, drivers do U-turns from the parking bays in Mons Parade next to the station, which is too close to the intersection of the Link Road and Mons Parade. No U-turn signs and no parking signs need to be erected, and drivers educated about the dangers and traffic issues they're creating. Build it and they will abuse the privilege. Can I ask Mr Kersley to respond, please?
Thank you. Mr Kearsley, please.
Through you, Mayor, thank you for the question, Ms Guest. I can advise that at this particular moment the State Government and LXRA are owners of that particular section of Madeira Way until such time as the transfer process to Council is finalised. However, what I can advise too is that unfortunately many of the identified issues that you bring our attention to are the result of driver behaviour, which can be best addressed through enforcement of the road rules. For the issue of U-turning vehicles and other traffic infringements, this matter will be raised with the Victorian Police for their attention and any action they deem necessary. Given the limited width of Madeira Way and the presence of a continuous dividing centre line, parking is not permitted, as there's insufficient width for a driver to park and leave 3 metre clear road surface between the outer edge of their vehicle and the dividing line, as you have already seen. We don't believe, however, that additional signage will necessarily solve this problem. The Noble Park Revitalisation Board has allocated funds to implement a traffic calming asphalt artwork on Madeira Way. The project is being delivered in partnership with the Bunurong Land Council and is expected to be completed by September 2023. As I previously advised, we will seek assistance from VicPol, and at a time that Council takes full ownership of that particular section of Madeira Way, then Council's local laws officers can also be involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Now move on to item 4, Officers' Reports, Part 2. 4.1 Contracts, 4.1.1 Contract Number 2223-39 Parking Equipment Maintenance.
Happy to move that, Mayor.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Councillor Formoso, seconded by Councillor Garrard. Are there any questions? Councillor Dark, yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question to the relevant officer. I note that the tender went out and from the tender only one company applied. I just want to find out from the relevant officer whether that is a standard given the TTX machines and whether there's potentially the fact that the machines are now getting past their life cycle, or whether potentially there was something within the tender that we didn't receive. I see quite a few more tenders. I think there's not very often that we only receive one tender that submits to deal with, I suppose, a substantial council contract.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you to yourself. Councillor Dark, I reckon the reason that we only received one is because of the specific type of machine. It's the tenderer is the same company that has the manufacture of it. So there's an obvious relationship between the manufacturer and the maintenance contract. And obviously, in the absence of anybody else to go to, it would make sense to deal with the manufacturer of and the only tenderer for the maintenance of this equipment. The machines haven't quite reached the end of their life, if I can put it to you that way. There has been more new technology put into it, and there still has the capability, in fact, from an electronic point of view, to link into things like our in-ground sensors, etc. So it's certainly not at the end. It's not old technology. There's still the capacity for future data gathering, etc., from within those machines. But at the end of the day, the contract can only be let to the company that is the only company that can service it. We have squeezed through that contract the best possible deal in terms of service times, response times, and the capacity of our budget to pay for those. So I hope that answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Bosman. Are there any further questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item 4.2, Finance and Budget. 4.2.1, Adoption of the 2023 to 24 Budget. As I believe there's an amended officer recommendation. Would Councillor Garrard moved? Yeah, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Long. Is there any? Are there any questions, councillors? Councillor O'Reilly.
I have an amendment. I'd like to propose an amendment.
Yes, Councillor O'Reilly. What is your amendment?
Thank you, Mayor. The amendment is that the trader worker permit at number 8 Balmoral car park yearly fee be changed to increase to $215. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. Councillor Garrard as the mover and Councillor Long as the seconder. Do you both agree with that amendment?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Tan.
Thank you, Mayor. I just got a question just regarding to the report on the budget. This is to do with the amount of money that we borrow for the major projects. So technically we're borrowing 48.85 million, 37 million in 2024 to 2025, 11.85 million in 25 to 26. So altogether would be 97.70 million just for this project in 3 years. So my question to the relevant officer, what is the interest that you calculate based on this amount in 3 years?
Thank you, Councillor Tan. Ms Hanson, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Tan, for the question. So we've provided estimates in the long-term financial plan at the moment. So those loan borrowings will actually have to go out to tender. So I'm happy to disclose what that is. So we're roughly estimating 6.5%. But those borrowings are still a couple of years away. So we're hoping that the economy will recover in some aspect by then. But hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you, Ms Hanson.
Thank you. Second question, just regarding to the grant funding that we agree from the federal government. So assumption that we'll get the 17.7 million roughly. Do you know when that will happen as the actual date?
Thank you, Councillor Tan. Mr Kearsley, please.
Thank you. I'm happy to take that question as it involves, I think, your reference to the Dandenong Wellbeing Centre. The application for funding was submitted about a week and a half ago, and we are expecting an 8-week time frame for the federal government to, in terms of their internal processes, to consider and approve that. So we'd be very hopeful of advising council, say at least within the next 8 to 12 weeks, that amount of money has been successful with regards to a formal application process.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Are there any further questions, councillors? Is there any opposition?
Opposition, Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Dark in opposition. So, Councillor Garrard, as the mover, would you like to
just
speak?
a clarification of process. The opposition is in relation to the amendment, the alternate proposed by, or the budget per se? The whole thing. So that we understand from Councillor O'Reilly that the change in the cost to traders is significant in one hit, and that what is desired is behaviour change, that we are trying to encourage traders to park in the parking in the designated parking space and not take up street space, which limits the amount of business that can be conducted there. And so the proposal is a very sensible one. It is about an incremental phase-in of that change, and that we are therefore not, Councillor O'Reilly is not excluding the change in its entirety, is just suggesting a very sensible incremental introduction of that change. And I think that's that is in response, to discussions with traders and the cost impost that would place on them and limit their income. In relation to our budget per se, I actually would like to congratulate the council in producing such a good budget in such difficult times. And we heard from the CEO, we have a lot of threats to our budget right now, and the council has, and I would like to personally congratulate our financial officer there, has done such a great job in being able to deliver capital projects, a number of significant capital projects, but also deal with the usual business of council in renewal and replenishment programs, and still come in, in a reasonably sound financial position. So I commend this budget to all of our councillors, and I thank the council staff for their tremendous work on this.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Councillor Long as seconder, please.
I agree with everything Councillor Garrard had said. We need to get the traders off the street in Springvale and into the car park, and by reducing the increase and doing an increase over a number of years rather than one big jump, I think that would help the traders and they will use the car park then. The budget, as far as I'm concerned, is a very good budget, and congratulations, Ms Hanson, on bringing forward such a good budget. I think it's very fair across the board. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Councillor Long. Councillor Dark, as first opposition, would you like to speak?
Well, thank you, Mayor. And may I note the first opposition for this evening. This is a budget. This is, in my time on this council, this is one of the worst budgets that this council has ever put out to consultation. And I am embarrassed by the way this has gone out. In the current economic climate right now, we are suffering from massive amount of inflation, a huge amount of issues with cost of living. People losing their jobs, businesses going under, day in, day out in Dandenong South, in Keysborough. We consistently hear that businesses are going out under. We consistently hear that people are losing their jobs. The calls for support coming into me through my council phone that I'm forwarding onto the Springvale Benevolent Society clearly shows that there are some real issues in this municipality right now. When people are getting to the point where they're having to make a decision about whether they turn on their electricity, whether they turn on their heater, or they pay their council rates, there is clearly an issue, and it is a fundamental issue. And I will not support a budget that deliberately sets out in what is there to say that it's going to go fund infrastructure, it's going to go fund projects, when people at the moment are struggling. For people to get and then cop a significant rate rise, to have no real return in where things are going, an increase in the waste levy to offset costs, and to continue to keep going without doing anything internal, shows that the council has not planned anything properly. It shows that this is a half-baked budget that's been put out at the risk and expense of our residents. And I cannot possibly support a budget that doesn't bring into consideration of where things are currently going. Regardless of whether areas, and I know that there's been comments regarding Springvale and the activity zone and where you see things going, the fact is that businesses are really hurting. They are significantly hurting. You see in Lonsdale Street, Dandenong here, traders significantly suffering. You see in Springvale Central, traders are suffering. And I was only there on Saturday to see how the traders within the Springvale shopping centre are suffering. They're trying to get people to come to their shop. They're trying to sell their products. And they are continuously struggling with the way that things are currently going. When it comes to council's budget and council's operations, we have a significant wages bill. We have significant operational expenditure where we have not done a proper feasibility on the efficiency and dividends of what can be achieved. And I'm not talking about taking a razor gang and taking it to the budget and cutting here and there and people losing their jobs, but there are meaningful ways that this council can achieve efficiency dividends without causing harm to our residents. The projects which are being funded in this council budget, particular items to do with planting more trees, the Greening Your City strategy, the rolling out of additional programs and plans, social agenda programs, the expenses of us campaigning in things such as the Aboriginal Voice and amongst other things, costs money. And this is money that people in this council seem to think just continuously grows on trees. And it doesn't. It really doesn't. When you have people and pensioners and single parents who are struggling and are really, really, really doing it tough and don't understand what support is available and are having to make these choices, then this council has gone too far. And that is why I will not be supporting the budget tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. Are there any other speakers, either for or against, that would like to speak?
Mayor.
Councillor Milkovich.
Thank you, Mayor.
I could not agree with Councillor Tim Dark any more than what I have. To sit here week in, week out, and to listen to my fellow councillors saying how we need to support the residents in post-COVID recovery, in the cost of living, in rising cost of fuel, rising cost of water bills, electricity bills and gas bills, utilities and the rates, and then to say that the budget that's been delivered is balanced. Well, yes, it is, but at what cost? I have gone through the list of, and allow me a second, a list of council fees and charges, and I have counted approximately, and don't quote me the exact number, about 950 fees and charges that council imposes on their residents regarding hiring of the halls, sporting facilities, so on and so forth. And I have only noticed 107 of those fees, 16 of which were for asset protection permits, 9 were library fees, and about 40 were for different bonds of different kinds that haven't gone up in this budget. Everything else in this budget has gone up. So yes, we have delivered a budget, or the council's delivered a budget that's, doing really well, but is it doing really well for our residents? That is the question that we have to ask ourselves. And how are these residents going to cope with extra costs that have been delivered on top of the rising cost of living, on top of the interest rate, rising unemployment, rising utility costs, while we sit here and pretend like we care? It is time that we put our money where our mouth is, and to actually do something and say we need to deliver more with less and reduce the cost. The second reason why I'm opposing this budget is the residents of Dandenong North are really upset, and I'll tell you why. We have got a rates income of this council at $247 million, give or take, which is going to rise to some $250 million, what my understanding is. And residents of Dandenong North have been afforded a paltry $125,000 in major projects. We are some of the highest ratepayers in residential properties in CGD, and we get out of the whole budget. I understand that's all fine. Some of my fellow councillors, they will enjoy this budget. They get tens of millions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of dollars in renewals and capital projects. We get $125K. I needed $250 to deliver the park upgrade, and I had to do it over 2 budgets. And my residents are not happy, and for those reasons, with the cost of living and actually being fully neglected by this budget, and all the residents in Dandenong North, I cannot support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Milkovich. Any further speakers either for or against? Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll try not to be political in the debate, but I've heard the opposition to the budget from Councillor Dark and Councillor Milkovich, and there's some great stuff in there as far as empathising with residents' cost of living, which I think all councillors do now. I don't think they share that, they uniquely share that particular attribute, and that this sort of idea that council's spending too much money, where exactly, not sure, but just generally councils are charging residents too much, rates too much, and spending too much money. But unfortunately, Mayor, to date, the councillors that appear to be opposing this have not provided any detail on what we should actually change. All they've said is a whole lot of general statements on council spending too much and charging ratepayers a hefty rate increase, when we know that this council's rate increase does not even cover the cost of inflation. So even with charging maximum rate cap, we're going backwards and looking at cutting services. So I would invite councillors that oppose a budget on general terms to come up with some actual ideas on what new community facilities that we have planned, which ones would they cut, which services would they cut, because that's the decision we have to make now. We can, I can stand up and talk in generalities and empathy and so on, but at the end of the day, we have to balance our books. So I hope to see that forthcoming from those councillors in due course. Otherwise, it's just a whole lot of platitudes that will not affect this budget in any practical way. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. Any other speakers either for or against? Councillor Garrard, as the mover, would you like your right of reply?
We don't appear to have any microphones. Thanks, Sean. Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. What I would say in response to Councillor Dark and Councillor Milkovich is that I am in furious agreement with them that people are hurting. People are absolutely hurting. And as Councillor Dark pointed out, they're hurting because of energy costs. They're hurting because of interest rates going up. They're hurting because of the general inflationary environment in which we are currently living. We are all, everybody in this room will be to some extent hurting. And it is heartening to hear the empathy expressed by our fellow councillors for the hardship that people are experiencing. So I think we are all in furious agreement that everybody is hurting right now. It's tough times. It's very tough times. But we also heard, in terms of council, it's extremely tough times. We are under threat from a number of serious issues that are affecting the council's bottom line. But as Councillor O'Reilly said, we still have to deliver services. We still have to do the work of council. And in fact, this budget is very modest in its rises. The CPI costs to our hire facilities is just that, just meeting the CPI costs. So in fact, it's not a rise as such. We're just keeping pace with the general economy. So, the council was at pains not to be imposing increased costs on people right now. And in fact, we all sat around the table and we had that discussion. We were all very concerned not to put undue pressure onto the residents in the city of Greater Dandenong. So, as Councillor O'Reilly said, we strongly support the empathy that Councillor Dark and Councillor Milkovich have shown to the residents in the city of Greater Dandenong, and I think we all agree with that. However, this budget stands as a very good budget. It's a modest budget. It is a budget that has that our financial officer has worked incredibly hard to bring to this point where we are in a comfortable financial position and we are still delivering services. So once again, I congratulate Ms Hanson and everyone that worked on this budget, and I think the residents in the city of Greater Dandenong can rest assured that this is a modest and a very, very good budget.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. We'll now put this to a vote. So all those in favour of the amendment to the amended motion, please raise your hand. Councillor O'Reilly, Councillor Trung, Councillor Garrard, Councillor Long, Councillor Tan, Deputy Mayor Councillor Formoso, Councillor Lim, Councillor Foster. All those against, please raise your hand. Councillor Dark, Councillor Milkovich. That is 8 for and 2 against. So I declare this item carried. Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Garrard, you may speak.
Just point out in this budget that the first tranche of funding for the long-awaited Keysborough South hub is listed there, which is a mix, in fact, of borrowings, developer funds and state government grants, and so it is heartening to see that project is underway and should be delivered in 24-25, and also that residents will get a long-awaited playground cover to protect them during the summer. So just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. We'll now move on to item 4.2.2, adoption of the 2023 to 24 to 2032-33 long-term financial plan, moved by Councillor Garrard, seconded by Councillor Lim. Are there any questions, councillors? Yes, Councillor Garrard.
Madam Mayor, I just would like to ask if I could have information regarding the $1.8 million operating costs that is projected for the Keysborough South Hub in this budget. If we could understand the methodology of that at some point, that would be really good.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Ms Hanson, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Garrard, for the question. Look, in simple terms, the operational costs of $1.8 million at the moment in the long-term financial plan for the Keysborough South Community Hub are developed on very early estimates at this point, and they include a number of costs around staffing and non-staffing costs. The model is also based on community expectations and delivery of the site. So probably further to that, I wanted to add that the operational elements for the Keysborough South Community Hub are progressing as planned, and the first step of the operational planning included the endorsement of a council facilitated management model in January 22. The next step or part of this is the draft strategic plan, which is scheduled to come to a councillor briefing in mid-August, and then that will go out for public consultation following that briefing. So the overarching strategic plan has incorporated all the past resident and stakeholder feedback and provides a strategic decision to deliver on goals, aspirations and visions for the hub. Once this is completed, this would inform the operational planning and work towards a confirmed staffing structure.
Thank you, Ms Hanson. Any further questions, councillors? Is there any opposition?
Declare opposition.
Councillor Dark declared opposition. So, Councillor Garrard, as the mover, would you like to speak?
So, once again, I will, reiterate that we are in good financial situation. The long-term outlook looks good. It has been painstakingly put together by our very competent financial officer, who's getting a lot of love tonight, and that we are able to begin the building and the planning for significant capital projects, which are benefiting the community in many ways, and they have been asked for by the community, so we're responding to need in delivering those major capital projects. But once again, we are already also delivering services, and we are also making sure that the business of council continues, and that we continue to deliver the high quality of service that we continually see through our survey, that we actually punch above our weight in terms of satisfaction in terms of services within our community. So the long-term financial plan reflects that, and I think we can all sleep well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Councillor Lim, as seconder, would you like to speak?
Yep, thank you, Mayor. To me, like Councillor Garrard said already, we have to provide all these services, like, for example, strategy, signage, whatever, that the community really need. Like for me, even my ward, I really request very strongly about all of these things that our resident business owner, whatever they require for. Therefore, at this stage, I believe that we can afford to do that. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Councillor Lim. Councillor Dark, in opposition, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I rise to oppose the long-term financial plan along with the budget as well, given the financial position of this council. And I note that Councillor Garrard said the outlook looks good, that we can all sleep well. Yet within the actual, within the document, within the long-term financial plan provided by the director, it clearly states that the financial landscape we are operating in has been constantly changing. We are in an unprecedented era of financial challenge across local government. There's been the devastating pandemic that's had enormous financial impact and a lasting one, which is a significant risk to this council. Over the top of that, it also says that council forecasts to undertake significant borrowings over the next 4 years of $74.97 million. Now, I don't know under what tree, under what rock Councillor Garrard's living, but under what world does the outlook look good there? A massive amount of debt that this council is carrying, a humongous amount of debt. Projects are being delivered of assets. At the end of the day, what people want more than anything, yes, facilities are good, yes, having access to them is there, and I would argue that the Civic Centre within Dandenong and the facility within Springvale provide adequate coverage. But to go down and say that, okay, but having a community centre that's going to cost millions more than what originally was forecast and budget and taking on more debt is actually going to work out better in the future. because those who at the moment are struggling to pay their bills really look forward to going to a library in 5 years' time and reading a book and saying how good this is. Like, it's all fairyland stuff, and the fact is that people are struggling as hard as they possibly can. This council is not managing the debt levels appropriately or where it should be. It is putting a lot of pressure on council's bottom line. Interest rates are skyrocketing, our debt repayment levels are skyrocketing across the board, and what we should be doing is being fiscally responsible, working towards paying down debt to an acceptable level, in which case, yes, we can borrow if we require that in the future, but also that we're not entering a strong area, an area where we are entering financial distress, where we are entering a stage where we are having to look at the options of potentially going to the Essential Services Commission and seeking a level of relief or seeing what other options are available, because council's borrowings are so high that we can barely afford to make repayments without having to take the blade to services. And that's why I won't support the long-term financial plan either.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. Are there any other speakers, either for or against, that would like to speak? No? Okay, so I will... I will go to you, Councillor Garrard, for your right of reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to respond to Councillor Dark. Again, tremendous empathy he is showing again, which is highly commendable. None of us said there were not troubled waters ahead. No one is saying there's not troubled waters ahead financially for any business, any council, anyone right now. We are in a post-COVID financial recovery phase, and we do face significant threats to our financial security. Everybody does. But given those threats have been well considered, have been well accommodated, and we have been given a comfortable buffer by our very competent financial team, and with the provision that we can in future adjust or realign some of our decisions should the financial situation change at any time. So at this point, with the information we have, and the circumstances we are dealing with, we are predicting that we are in a safe and comfortable financial position going forward, with the proviso that can always be adjusted each budget as we go forward. So as we stand today, yes, we face troubled times, but we also are showing the courage to continue to deliver what the community expect us to deliver, and we're doing that safely and comfortably in this environment.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. We'll now put this to a vote. So all those in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. Councillor O'Reilly, Councillor Trung, Councillor Garrard, Councillor Long, Deputy Mayor Councillor Formoso, Councillor Lim, Councillor Foster. All those against, please raise your hand. Councillor Milkovich, Councillor Dark and Councillor Tan. That's 7 for and 3 against. I declare this item carried. Thank you. Item 4.3, Policy and Strategy. 4.3.1, Recreation Reserve Advertising, Promotional and Club Signage Policy 2023. Happy to move that. Moved by Deputy Mayor Councillor Formoso, seconded by Councillor Garrard. Are there any questions, councillors? Yes, Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can the respective officer please clarify that no gambling will be allowed as part of this?
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Ms Gillies.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Apologies, Councillor Garrard. Could you just repeat that for me? I didn't hear the first part.
Just to clarify that as part of this policy, no gambling will be allowed on the signage as per our council policy.
Absolutely confirmed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Gillies. Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Are there any further questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's not...
Sorry, I indicate opposition.
A bit slow there, Councillor Dark. All right, opposed by Councillor Dark. So, Councillor Garrard, as Deputy Mayor, you've been moving everything today. Deputy Mayor Councillor Formoso, as the mover, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't see any issues with this policy at all. We're adopting recreation reserve advertising promotional club signage policy as we have been doing. It's just a review. It's exactly the same thing that we've been doing, if not better than before, so I have absolutely no issues with this policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Formoso. Councillor Garrard, as the seconder, would you like to speak?
Madam Mayor, I cannot for the life of me see what opposition, I'll be intrigued to hear what opposition Councillor Dark could possibly have. He's done his empathy quota for the night, so I'd be intrigued. I do want to congratulate those that put this policy together on the number of exclusions, the number of harmful advertising for harmful food advertising, harmful gambling, and a number of harmful social impacts from advertising have been excluded. Otherwise, we need a policy. We need a policy. So this is a very good policy, and I wait with bated breath.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Councillor Dark, in opposition, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. I used my empathy quota. There's a first for a council that has no sport clubs in their ward and doesn't support sport, I suppose would expect. I rise to oppose this motion and the policy, particularly in plan. And the fundamental issue I have with it is the way in which sports clubs are left to fundraise and support themselves on their own 2 feet without then coming to council for support. And this is without saying, I suppose, as Councillor Riley said before, without going political, but MPs have a budget that is afforded to them. It's a slush fund for advertising or whatever they want to call it. And they support sports clubs. And I know that Mr Talamas, who's an upper house member of parliament, often supports the Kingston City Soccer Club and supports other clubs in the municipality. Gabrielle Williams was a very large supporter of clubs and facilities within the city of Greater Dandenong. And Martin Pakula, the former member for Keysborough, was the same thing as well. And then there's a whole lot of minor parties like the people relevant, like the Greens. But the fact is, what there is and built in within the policy is the outlaw of political signage. It is, on top of that as well, the areas and the groups of which clubs have the facility to go to generally are your local cafes. They generally are your local businesses. They're the ones who want to get involved, who will happily provide some fundraising and sponsoring and support. And in return, they get the provision of having a sign on the wall. They get the turn of providing vouchers or whatever it is in terms of the like for kids and the best kid on ground. And that's what supports a lot of these clubs. Sponsorship is the vital part of sponsoring it. You can go to any football club, soccer club, netball club, you name it, there are sponsors from around. And I've noticed over the last couple of years that the sponsors are changing. And I'm not saying we should go all out with Sportsbet or Ladbrokes and the likes of those gambling apps and those sort of things, but to get to the point where you're banning something like a local fast food outlet, your groups like your Royal Stacks, those sort of companies who provide vouchers for kids as I suppose a surprise or a congratulations for being the best on field or the best during the game, or providing some sort of support to encourage kids as well to get out and about, because this is certainly a direction this council is heading with a lot of other policies as well, with the banning of fried foods and pushing as we head down this warped path that in the middle of a winter's day after playing football, everyone wants to get an apple or a fruit salad. The fact is that fried foods play a significant part of it. Those local businesses employ local people, and as a part of it, if they can increase sales for it, they'll employ more people. And that is something that I think that this policy doesn't appropriately represent, have things in place, and that's why I won't support it again tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. Are there any other speakers either for or against? Sorry, Councillor Garrard, you've...
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, Councillor Garrard, I think you have spoken. I'm just putting it to other councillors who haven't yet.
Yeah, no one else wanted to.
Let me find out. Yes, Councillor O'Reilly would like to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. Just had a question of clarification after I've listened to the debate. So the questions are, like, with those exclusions, which I think the main contention is about, does that exclude a local MP from paying, donating to their local club, having their sign up? Number one. And number two, regarding fast food, the example of Royal Stacks, which has not sponsored this particular council meeting but may choose to support a club, is that considered fast food? Because I haven't been there, but it takes like about 10 minutes to get a burger. So what's the, or a bit longer? So where is the line drawn? Is it like up to officers' interpretation of the policy? Should we foreshadow that could move an amendment, depending on the response, may move an amendment to remove those exclusions from the policy. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. I'll ask Ms Gillies to clarify, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. So firstly, I'll just point out there's actually no change to the existing policy in terms of the review that's been done. So this is a policy that has been in place now for quite some time. In terms of the exclusions, so the exclusions that are in place are really to align directly with Council's various policies in terms of health and wellbeing. So, for example, our policy in terms of gambling, no gambling. The healthy eating policy steps out quite clearly what is considered healthy food versus what is considered unhealthy food, and as such, the exclusions relate to organisations that are fast food typical. So it's not subjective in terms of which food vendors they actually are. It's quite clear and set out for officers in terms of what providers are fast food versus not fast food from a health perspective. The real premise being that, to the point around supporting sports clubs and sponsorship, it's absolutely true. However, if those sponsorships are to the detriment of the health and wellbeing of our community, then one almost negates the other. I've answered the questions backwards. The first point around local MPs, yes, it excludes any political advertising at all. I do believe that was a point that came up as part of the consultation that was undertaken, that did go back to, I believe it was raised by councillors, that did go back for community consultation and came back that it should remain as is.
Okay, thank you, Ms Gillies. Any other councillors that would like to speak either for or against? Deputy Mayor, Councillor Formosa, your right of reply.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I believe there's absolutely nothing wrong with this policy. In fact, I implore it as a PE teacher, health teacher in the local community. All I want to do is promote healthy eating, people being active, and anything that we can do to increase that. Of course, I'm going to advocate and support. It's in line with our community vision. It's in line with our council plan. And also our community consultation. So absolutely hope that all my fellow councillors will support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Formoso. We'll now go to a vote. So all those in favour of this item, please raise your hand. So Councillor O'Reilly, Councillor Trung, Councillor Garrard, Councillor Long, Councillor Tan, Deputy Mayor Councillor Formoso, Councillor Lim and Councillor Foster. All those against, please raise your hand. Councillor Dark and Councillor Milkovich. Though that is 8 for and 2 against, I declare this item carried. We'll now move on to item 4.3.2. Council Plan 2021 to 2025, revised 2023, and Annual Plan 2023-2024. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor O'Reilly, thank you, and seconded by Councillor Garrard. Are there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item 4.3.3, City of Greater Dandenong Cat Management Strategy, Cat Curfew. Moved by Councillor Garrard, seconded by...
Happy to second that.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor Councillor Formoso. Are there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? Do you have a question, councillor? Or?
Yeah, I do have a question, actually. Mayor, just a question to the relevant officer, given the policy, and from the questions that I've heard tonight from a couple of people who are, I suppose, leaders in their field, and certainly know a lot more about cat welfare than I do. In terms of the euthanasia rates in the municipality, from a percentage point of view, I can be given a percentage, but from a number point of view, how many cats have we euthanised in the past, say, 12 months or last 2 years? And as a result of that, I suppose, what programs do we have in place to currently rehome them into cat rescue or into other services before we get to a point where the easiest option, I suppose, becomes euthanasia?
Thank you, Councillor Dark. Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you through yourself. Councillor Dark, the absolute number I will have to come back to you on. But what I can say to you is that the cat strategy that this council adopted on the 27th of June last year, and the cat curfew, which is what we talked about tonight, isn't the strategy. It is just an element of the strategy. That overall comprehensive cat strategy is designed to do exactly that. It's designed to reduce the euthanasia rates, and as I spoke earlier in my response to the questions that were tabled, to also increase the rehoming of cats, foster caring, rehoming, to take semi-owned cats to fully owned cats. So overall, one should see then a decrease in the absolute number and the percentage of cats that are euthanized. Whether that will be immediate, unlikely. In fact, the evidence shows that in the first year of cat curfews, etc., in fact, the number of complaints goes up, but then settles, and then as the program entrenches, as the program then becomes embedded, and all of the aspects of that program are rolled out in the community, those euthanasia rates come down, the rehoming of cats goes up, the cat ownership and the cat problem with regard to semi-owned and non-owned cats reduces. So, if you still want the absolute number, I can get that number to you, but I can assure you that everything within the cat strategy is designed to do exactly what everybody, including the submitters, wants, which is to bring down those rates, those euthanasia rates. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Bosman. Any further questions, councillors?
Yes,
Yes, Councillor Tan.
Thank you, Mayor. My question to the relevant officer, just regarding to, this is the strategy about the provide subsidised desexing, microchipping and registration events. So just want to find out exactly what amount of the subsidy I'll be providing. Is that what's the cost in terms of cost for discount? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tan. Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, through the subsidies that we have received in recent years, we've been able to bring down desexing. In some cases, some of the programs, the desexing was down as low as $50. What we will continue to do is to seek state government funding. We'll continue to seek other forms of grants, etc., that will subsidise the desexing program. And you will see that will vary from year to year, and we will continue to keep that as low down as possible. And in some cases, as I'd mentioned earlier, in relationship with things like the Veterinary Association, there are categories of people who, or to whom they will deliver those sorts of services for nothing. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Bosman. Any further questions?
I've got a question. Thank you,
Yes,
Mayor.
Councillor Milkovich.
Just to a relevant officer, when the cat is trapped and gets taken to animal shelter or pound or whatever, how long does it usually take, or how long is it before it is actually euthanized? Is there any attempts made to rehouse it? How long do they go on for? Is it like immediate, after 2 days or after 2 months, or approximate? How long would it take to get to that last final step?
Thank you. Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, when the cat is trapped, obviously an assessment is done in terms of its behaviour. First of all, it will be checked to see whether it is microchipped and whether we can return it to its owner, in which case that's done very, very quickly. If the cat is a wild cat and has no prospect of being rehomed or fostered out, the euthanasia then would be carried out relatively quickly. If the cat can be rehomed or fostered, has the prospects of doing so, then every attempt is made to find a foster for it or find a home for it. So depending on the cat itself that is trapped, those periods can be from anything from 2 days before it is rehomed, for example, given back to its owners, which is why one of the programs that we have within our cat strategy is a very strong encouragement to microchipping. And in fact, one of the requirements at federal level is that that cats that are the product of cat breeders have to be microchipped before they can be on-sold. And that's one of the ways that we can check then whether, even if a cat isn't registered within our municipality, the fact that it has a microchip on a national database, we're able to go back and find out who it was sold to. So those sorts of things happen quite quickly. If the cat has no prospect of being, if it's a feral cat, no prospect of being rehomed, again, euthanasia will happen relatively quickly. Otherwise, we do make efforts to find homes for them, and that can take a while.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman. Any further questions? Yes, Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor. Question to the Director on the cat curfew. Seems to be the main point of discussion. But with this implementing the cat curfew, in the cases of extremely problematic cats where neighbours are complaining about it, everybody knows that it's out and about causing mayhem, does the cat curfew allow for more straightforward enforcement in trapping the cat than we have currently?
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. Mr. Bosman.
Madam Mayor, thank you to yourself. Councillor O'Reilly, one of the strategies within one of the actions within the CAT strategy is in fact to increase the number of traps that we will have available to the community. So yes, I suppose from that point of view, it will make enforcement easier. Contrary to popular belief, I'm not going to have rangers all dressed up in camouflage climbing illegally over people's back fences trying to catch moggy. That's not going to happen. It will still be the cats that are trapped, that rangers will then go and collect the trapped cat, and then the actions will follow it. But we will be making more traps available to the community. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman. Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor. But if I don't like my neighbour's cat, can I then set a trap for that cat and catch it when it's outside in the cat curfew, and then what would happen then? Does the cat then go to cat jail or wherever it goes to?
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. Mr. Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, I think you can probably think of all sorts of sinister ideas of how you can get, even with your neighbour, you can block his drainage pipes and then, do whatever, even maybe with the cat, I don't know. But no, I think that one's got to take a reasonable view. In any legislation, Councillor O'Reilly, there will be those who try to use it for their own nefarious purposes or sinister purposes. A cat that's caught in a trap and it has its registration details, that cat will be returned to its owner. Initially, obviously, a conversation with that owner will happen. It's not the big stick first off, and this is why there's an education program. The whole thing is built around, in the first instance, a very robust education and bespoke education program, given the ethnicity and multilingualism of our community. So with that education, we believe, and the whole suite of things, we will see a vast improvement. It's not going to guarantee Shangri-La, it's not going to guarantee that all the problems go away, and it's not going to guarantee that your neighbour is not going to find some way of, using it or abusing it because of neighbourly disputes. And we've seen situations where neighbours have dumped illegal stuff in their neighbours' wheelie bins and then, trying to get them into... It's a scenario that I suppose the strategy doesn't foreshadow. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman. Any further questions, councillors? Is there any opposition?
I want to just declare an abstention on this item, please, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Dark. So, is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Councillor Garrard, would you like to speak
Thank you,
to
Madam
this
Mayor.
item?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I congratulate my fellow councillors for passing this item. I also want to congratulate the officer, Luke Mullins, who has spent so much time with very broad and comprehensive consultation, resulting in a very broad and comprehensive policy being brought to us today. I think that the figures stand for themselves. The Australian National University showed that in Greater Melbourne there's about 1 million cats. Of that, 730,000 generally roam free, and they will kill 62 million native animals annually in the area of Greater Melbourne. We also know that in the suburban areas, pet cats will kill up to 30 to 50 times more native animals per square kilometre as opposed to feral cats. We also know that keeping cats in at night actually keeps cats safer. So there is that angle as well. So I want to thank the appropriate officers who have put this together and our fellow councillors who have made this very responsible decision to protect our native wildlife in a very moderate and I think appropriate way for our community.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Are there any other speakers?
Mayor.
Yes, Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I appreciate all the feedback that different parties have put to this. I think the headline of the discussion has been the cat curfew, but the headline of the policy is certainly not the cat curfew. It's a whole suite of measures that has been explained by the Director and is also explained in the policy before us on the agenda. And the Council will only enforce the cat curfew for problematic extreme cases, Mayor, and I think it's just that where a particular cat is creating mayhem in its local neighbourhood for various reasons, that council do have the backing of council officers do have the backing of this policy to then take practical action where it's appropriate. So I think that in summary, Puss in Boots need not be shivering in his boots after the introduction of our cat curfew. It'll be sensible, measured, and all cats should be happy in Greater Dandenong should be happy with it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly, and thank you for the headline for next week's paper. Thanks. Move on to the next item, which is 4.4 Other. 4.4.1 Report on matters discussed at councillor briefing sessions and pre-council meetings. Moved by Councillor Garrett again, seconded by Councillor Lim. Are there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item 4.4.2, List of registered correspondence to Mayor and councillors. Moved by Councillor Long, thank you. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Councillor Formoso. Are there any questions, councillors? Yes, Councillor Garrard.
Madam Mayor, I note very pleasingly that in correspondence we had a response to our notice of motion regarding the reportage of child care rebasements placed, whether it's within individual councillor accounts or whether it is aggregated. And we've had a response from the Minister for Local Government who says, in fact, we're not required to report it at all, which is a bit of a shock. In fact, we're only required to report on travel expenses, professional development expenses and expenses to support performance in the role. And so basically what we do with those expenses is up to us. And in fact, that's been poorly worded in the Act and she's looking to make sure that that is changed. So my question is, are we going to review this? Is the CEO going to review this and make changes to the way we report this?
Yeah,
Thank you,
certainly
Councillor.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we will be reviewing it and I'll report back to Council.
Thank you, Ms Weatherall. Now, so we had a question. Have we moved? No, we didn't. So is there any opposition to this item? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item 5, notices of motion. There are no notices of motion this evening, so we'll move on to item 6, reports from councillors, delegated members and councillor questions. Councillor Milkovich, might start with you.
Got the honours tonight. Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief. Last couple of weeks, I've seen a number of events, the highlight of which was obviously ALGA National General Assembly in Canberra, attended by majority of our councillors who are present here tonight. Great event, great to catch up and see Peter Dutton again. No, to the dismay of my fellow councillors. That's all right. Councillor Garrard and Councillor Foster have used the opportunity to invite him to Dandenong, which I think he will accept. I hope he certainly does. Hopefully he doesn't.
We'll wait and see, won't we?
Yes. No, it was lovely to catch up. Another event that was quite good to attend, first time for myself, was a SEMA dinner. It was actually a bit of an eye-opener because, when you look at, what happens in Dandenong South and sort of that way business district, you don't realise how much effort's actually gone in to make sure that these businesses do get recognition from the government. They also get, a project allocated where the government mandates that the product have to be of a local content and provision. So it's great to see that those industries, businesses over the course of the last 20, 30 years have come together and formed a formidable force to make sure that Dandenong and CGD stay as an industrial and manufacturing, not just repacking, manufacturing powerhouse. So it was great to attend that dinner. I think it was yourself and Councillor Lim as well there. It was just amazing. And I also attended one of our City of Greater Dandenong climate forums. It was anything but a climate forum. It was a recruitment centre to go and rebel against the government of any way, shape or form. It was great to see the speaker was armed with a half-truth. And I did have to put in my formal complaint to that, along with a number of other items that were displayed which did not resemble anything that climate change is. So that was the highlight, I guess, amongst the other things. So that's it for me for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Milkovich. Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I didn't have the pleasure of attending a woke council event, so unlike Councillor Milkovich. But I did have the opportunity to attend the Philippine Consul General its 125th anniversary of relations between Australia and the Philippines at the Crown Palladium on behalf of the Philippine Consulate. And it was actually a very large attended event. A lot of the groups based in the southeast were in attendance and all across Melbourne. It was a very large event because of the relationship that Australia has with the Philippines, particularly within Victoria and within the southeast. There's been a significant amount of work done, as I had a lot of discussions there to do with the immigration status and a lot of work in organising for a lot of students to come here. There's a lot of RTOs that currently operate in the city of Great Dandenong and in Dandenong Central whose prime market is recruiting and bringing in a lot of foreign students, particularly from the Philippines, for things like the healthcare sector, aged care, where we have deficiencies within the sectors. They're quite large in allowing them to immigrate and how they support them and get them in. Second to that as well, there was also a lot of companies that have outsourced their outsourcing of both labour, of finances, of supporting and their education level in the Philippines has grown drastically over the last 20 years. Their level of English is also second to none, and it actually works very well when it comes to the integration within businesses based in Australia when you can't get labour to outsource overseas, and they work on a similar time frame as well. Just a couple of things I have tonight. The first question I have today, I've had a couple of complaints, and I did send the photos through to Councillor Lim, regarding Regent Street in Springvale. There's an industrial complex next to a park that seems somewhat renovated. I think it's relatively new, but the footpath is crumbling. It's quite literally in pieces. There's no solid panel that's there. It hasn't been struck with anything. You can see it's just been there for so long. Can we please get somebody to have a look at that as a matter of urgency, given if somebody was to go over in a wheelchair, you would literally rock in, barely be able to make it to the other side.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. Mr Keasley, please.
Yes, we certainly can, Councillor. If you could send me the particular details in an email, we'll get onto that straight away.
Thank you. Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor, and Councillor Lim, I'm sure we'll send you the photos as well. The next question I have today, I was in Boiler Street in Keysborough, and I note that there's a lot of rubbish occurring along the nature strips. It looks very, very untidy, and I do understand it's an industrial area, but from what it used to look like to where we've got to now, there's steel that's crossing over footpaths coming out of people's factories, there's cars double parking, there's nature strips overgrown, the place is looking incredibly worse for wear, given it's an industrial area. I was wondering whether we could please have a look and see whether we could up the planning compliance level as well, just to make sure that people understand their roles and responsibilities given our public assets.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, I think there are a couple of areas here. I'll take carriage of the question. Your request, Councillor Dark, obviously there's parking issues involved, there's other maintenance issues involved. I'll liaise with Mr Kearsley. And which street did you say it is?
It's Borley Street, so it runs off Kirkham Road West.
Yep, no. Thank you. I'll take carriage of it and I'll liaise with Mr Kearsley.
Thank you, Mr Bosman. Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, my next question is regarding from Borley Street actually and then onto the Eastlink Trail. And I know this is a question for the Department of Transport, but the Eastlink Trail that runs from Chapel Road to Chandler Road has a significant amount of rubbish that's accumulating between the panels or the sound barriers of the road to the path, and then also from the path to people's back fences as well. And some of my residents have been incredibly opportunistic in terms of moving their fence line further out into what I would say, without a doubt, is not their tidal boundary. But if we could please have a look at that, whether we write to the Department of Transport to ask them to go along and clean up the rubbish. It's significant. You would be able to fill a significant amount of bins with the rubbish that's accumulating.
Sorry, Councillor Dark, which creek was that?
That was the Eastlink Trail that runs from along the Dandenong bypass from Chapel Road to Chandler Road.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Got both directors popping up. How good's this? I might start with Mr Kearsley.
I'll just add that we have had a number of issues in the past with Department of Transport and informing them and writing to them with regards to their waste collection or lack of. So that's something we'll certainly bring to their attention. With regards to the property matter, we can also make that a reference point. They would be the respective landowner. So, but at the end of the day, we have had previous issues with rubbish, and we'll make it something that they need to action as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. My next question, I've received 2 phone calls and 2 messages from some traders in Leonard Avenue in Noble Park, particularly to do with the upgrading of Leonard Avenue. There's been a whole lot of tape and banners and things put up to sort of show that there's construction sites going on. And the traders in Leonard Avenue, depending which way you look at it, on the tyre side, heading back, there's an egg farm, a bottle shop and a couple others, basically are trying to get the works completed because it's substantially affecting their trade. They've been speaking to the people who are running the project, which I believe is a state government group. But basically from there's one person that might turn up every couple of days and do some work for half an hour and then goes. And the barriers that they've put up basically make it very prohibitive to access the bottler and access the egg shop as well. If we could please just have a conversation with the traders and the group as well. I believe they've been trying to get the right person, but every time that traders approach one of the people who actually works there, they say, it's not my issue, you need to talk to somebody else. But then they actually don't on-forward who that person is. So the traders have contacted myself trying to get, I suppose, a resolution on what can happen and also the timeframes of getting the barriers. If we could please track that down.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. Mr Kearsley, please.
Thank you, Councillor, and yes, we're very much aware of that issue. I had one of the senior managers out there today meeting with 3 of the traders who have significant concerns. I too share those concerns with regards to how the contractors have gone about it. They are unfortunately contractors that we've appointed, but the funding is from the state government, so just to clarify that point. I've asked for an urgent meeting to happen in the next few days with the contractors with regards to the delays. Unfortunately, the delays are also somewhat out of their control because it relates to some services under the road and under the footpath that have affected the delivery of their program. But one thing I'm concerned about is the nature of how much of the road space, parking space and footpath that the fencing is taking up. So we're hoping to address that matter in the next probably 48 hours and make sure that it is tailored to better suit the works that are actually taking place. So it's an unfortunate situation, but I think a number of councillors, it may have been brought to a few councillors' attention late last week, and from that point, Kevin Van Boxtel has headed out on behalf of the business group to talk directly to the traders that have made contact.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. My final question for this evening is for the Director of Community Services. I had a phone call from the Keysborough Soccer Club regarding the growth that they've had over this season, which has been significant. They actually went through the new estates of Keysborough and did a letterbox drop, and have been actively promoting for those residents who occupy the new part, live in the new part of Keysborough, and getting them involved in soccer. And as a result of that, they've had a significant amount of growth in terms of a couple of hundred juniors that are now getting involved. The club is now experiencing growing pains, which I know is an issue that we have in this municipality. But if the Director of Community Services could please reach out to the Keysborough Soccer Club and organise a meeting, because I know that they're trying to accommodate what options they have about potentially a cage or a shed or something to allow them to add some additional materials or stock to be able to basically allow them to grow quicker as well.
Thank you, Councillor. Ms Gillies, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, that's fantastic news about the growth, particularly in terms of juniors, and absolutely we'll reach out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Dark. Councillor Lim.
Thank you, Mayor. Just on Wednesday, the 7th of June, I got an invitation from Southeast Migrant Refugee Centre to give a health seminar to an organisation named Cambodian Social Group, actually about 40 plus people. And also in the afternoon, I had a chance to meet our CEO and also Kevin Van Boxtel and Mrs. Dana Harding regarding the revitalization of our Springvale. And also on the 8th of June, Thursday, I had attended Climate Change Forum hosted by Youth Services at Springvale Community Hub with Councillor Milkovic as well. And also on that night, I attended SEMA 20th Anniversary Gala Dinner with Mayor, Councillor Milkovic and myself. And on Tuesday, the 13th of June, and also I attended National Assembly, Tuesday, 13th of June until the 16th of June, we attended National Assembly in Canberra. And I had a good chance actually to meet so many councillors from different states, especially from Northern Territory as well. And we can learn a lot from them, compare and contrast between our city and their city. And also on Saturday, the 17th of June, with our Deputy Mayor, we attended Co-Video 23 Short Film Festival hosted by our city and plus Australian Multicultural Media Centre. On Monday, the 19th of June, I had a meeting with Lisa Morse, CEO of Greater Dandenong Chamber of Commerce, and also with Mr. Bruce Wong, his company director of Food Solution, and so many other company that he under his umbrella, and also Mr. Andy Tran, head of BD at Interscale Monash University. The idea of our meeting is just want to try to form Springvale Chamber of Commerce. On Tuesday, the 20th of June, I attended Australian citizenship ceremony hosted by Refugee Community Association Australia in partnership with Department of Home Affairs with the Mayor. On Thursday, the 22nd of June, I had a meeting with former director of Pharmacy Guild of Australia, Victorian branch. He just came to see me just to discuss about our profession more, the future of pharmacy in the rural area and so on and so on. That's what he's concerned about. The most important, he's very passionate about Springvale. And we had a very have another tour of Springvale, and he gave me a lot of good idea about how to improve Springvale. On a Friday, the 23rd of June, I attended Refugee Week at Springvale Community Hub with Mayor and with Councillor Garat as well. In the afternoon, I attended Monash University Faculty of Pharmacy. Just regarding, we organized actually for the memorial services for Dr. Alistair Lloyd, or AO. And also I had a lot of good discussion with former Dean and the Dean, especially the last part I discussed with our Dean of Monash University Pharmacy, Faculty of Pharmacy, regarding to so many things, how to train our trainee to become a better pharmacist on Saturday, the 23rd of June. attended Virikavakava night celebration hosted by Fijian Community of Victoria with Mayor Eden Foster on Sunday the 24th of June. The Deputy Mayor as well attended World Refugee Day celebration hosted by Bacta Community Organization. And this morning I had a meeting again with our CEO and also with our Member of Parliament Meng Hieng Tak and also Mr. Stephen Kuhlman from the Premier Office and also Mr. Alan Crossway again from Civil Director as well. And they're very passionate and we had a great discussion and feedback a lot to us and to our CEO as well about how to improve Springvale and how to shape Springvale. And after that, I had a tour with him about half an hour around Springvale as well. This question is just a quick one, probably passed to our Deputy Mayor about this sort of center that this property that owned by us, number 61 Haytington Crescent, Noble Park North. It's just unimaginable. Actually, I came in yesterday. It's so dark, no electricity, no heaters and toilet. It just could not even look, can't find the toilet properly and the glasses broken here and there and so on and so on. Would it be possible for our council to do something a little bit just to make it look a bit better for the what we call the Bacta organization that use that place as what we call distribution center? Thanks for that.
Thank you, Councillor Lim. Ms Gillies.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the question. We're currently working, in fact, have a meeting on Wednesday this week with the Bacta in relation to the location that they're using. There's a number of issues with the current location. We're looking to support the Bacta as best we can. Obviously, we also need to make sure we're fair and equitable in terms of how we support all community organisations. I'm happy to come back to you with further information that you may need post that meeting.
Thank you, Ms Gillies.
That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lim. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Formoso, please.
Thanks, Mayor. What a fantastic week it is to be in Greater Dandenong as we celebrate Refugee Week between 18th of June to the 24th of June. So there's been several events that I've had the pleasure of attending. One of the ones that was a real highlight was obviously the Southern Migrant Refugee Centre 30-year anniversary held at Parliament House, which was exceptional. Such a wonderful organisation, and I just feel so privileged that we have an organisation like that representing our community and empowering migrants and refugees. And, you know, as I was sitting there listening to all the presenters and them talk about the work that they do, I thought how incredible it would have been for my parents to have an organisation like that available to them when they first arrived to Australia. And I had the privilege of awarding Perla Mays for her 27 years of volunteering at SMRC. So that was just an incredible event. So I was so happy to be there to represent our council. I also attended the 125th Philippine Independence Day event, which was held at the Victoria State Library, which was hosted by the Consul General Maria Lourdes Salcido, if I pronounced that correctly, and that was also a wonderful event. Many distinguished guests attending on the evening, and incredible the amount of Philippine members of the community that we have, not only here in the city of Greater Dandenong, but in Victoria. I hear they're the second largest, I believe, in all of Victoria, from what they say. So that was a lovely event to attend. I also was with my fellow councillor Richard Lim at the launch of the CoVideo 2023 Short Film Festival, which was fantastic. It was a bunch of up-and-coming poets and short film producers who did videos about and poetry about their experience of COVID. And there were some fantastic shows and contestants in that. There was one standout who ended up winning, but I believe they were all winners because it was a really fantastic festival. And I also had the pleasure of attending the Happy Place Art Exhibition, at Heritage Hill, which was hosted by the Magical Getaway Foundation. And this foundation actually raises funds to send disadvantaged families on holidays that they've never had the experience of having before. So I read somewhere that 1 in 4 children have never experienced having a family holiday or getaway. So this foundation does an incredible amount of work for our community, particularly here in Greater Dandenong, to give them experiences to attend their first holiday or getaway. And so I had the honour of being one of the judges in choosing the top 3 pieces of art. They were all incredible. One of which my son purchased and is sitting in your office currently, so he does want that back. He purchased that with his own pocket money so that he could donate that towards Magical Getaway. And my younger son also put some money towards the winner's artwork, which he used his pocket money to purchase, but then said, "Mum, I really don't want to keep this artwork that this young person has done. I would prefer that she keeps the artwork herself." So he purchased the art, but is donating it back to the artist so that she can have that piece of artwork. So very proud mum moment, and we were really happy to obviously support such an incredible foundation. So that was a really, really great afternoon. And yes, as my fellow councillor mentioned, we did attend the Baghdad Community Organisation World Refugee Day. It's incredible the amount of work that this organisation does for our new arrivals. And I do understand that as a council we're in a bit of a predicament because this old Scout Hall was supposed to be demolished at the start of this year. Council has been gracious enough to allow them to use the facilities in the meantime as their distribution centre. However, it is absolutely in shocking state, as Councillor Lim discovered yesterday for the first time. I have been there on multiple occasions. Look, they are actually happy to do some of the cosmetic work themselves and fund that. They just really need council permission to do that. I understand it'd be foolish for us to invest any money into the building if we're about to demolish it, but at least something to make it a little bit more appealing for those that are coming to use the facilities. And electricity is an issue as well. So I even threw the idea out there about perhaps getting some generators, like SES coming out on the days that they are distributing and using the generators to supply electricity, if supply of electricity would be an issue. That was just a crazy idea. I don't know if that could work. If it could, I'm happy to organise that with the SES. So I'm happy for Ms Gillies to take that one on notice. And I also have quite a few questions, so just bear with me. I did notice a few days ago that there's some fencing around the skate park at Hemmings Park. I don't know why that is, and I don't know if that has been removed as of now, simply because I know a lot of the Dandy High students and the local community members will be needing to use that over the school holidays. So if the appropriate officer could just respond, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I believe that has been removed, but I'll ask Ms Gillies to respond. Tonight I'm having a lot of directors putting their hand up to respond.
What's that game where people... Yeah. Sorry, I will have to take that one on notice. Apologies for that. I'm just not familiar with where that's currently at.
Yeah, no worries. I believe there must have been some works being done. I just wanted to know when that might be.
It looks like, because I've driven past there just recently, it looks like some fresh painting has been done, it looks like the fence has been removed.
Just in time for school holidays. Fantastic. Yes. Also just wanted a quick update, and I can't remember because I can't find it in my emails what the exact completion date was supposed to be for the Coolabin Reserve fitness equipment. I have seen that it's up and almost running. There is just some temporary fencing around there at the moment, so just wanting to know what the update on that is and when that will be opening. Another reason that it'll be well utilised over the school holidays, so the appropriate officer could respond.
Thank you. Mr Kearsley, thank you.
What address was that, Councillor?
Coolabin Reserve. The fitness equipment that I got in the CIP.
Let me just have I'm just scanning through the current updated project list. If I can't find it, I will take it on notice.
Yep, all good.
Yeah, look, just for the sake of the meeting moving on, I'll take that one on
Sure.
notice.
Thank you, Mr. Kearsley.
Another issue that has been an ongoing one, to be honest. I obviously drive to Dandenong High School on a daily basis and use Cleveland Street and David Street. I can't help but notice the chaos that goes along that road during school drop-off and pick-up times. We're seeing some shocking driver behaviour, and not only that, students are just running out in front of cars rather than using the 3 or 4 supervised crossing points that they do have. I've got video footage of parents actually doing a 3-point turn in the middle of the road, stopping in the middle of the road to let their kids out of the car, and then their kids are running across the road with the other ongoing traffic. It's a huge concern. Cars are only really doing 40 at that time because there is so much traffic, but it's a hazard, and there's absolutely issues there. I would perhaps recommend doing a similar system that we used at St Elizabeth, which was the Kiss and Go, because a lot of cars are just leaving their vehicles there, taking their kids in, which is preventing a lot of vehicles from dropping off their children in a safe manner, and then of course educating the kids about how they're supposed to be crossing the road, so perhaps contacting the school about that. So if the appropriate officer could respond, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Mr. Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you through yourself. Councillor Formosa, there are a couple of issues here. Obviously, to some extent, the parking compliance officers can look at the parking issue, and if anybody's double parking, etc., there might be the opportunity to look at putting different signage up, like you're saying, Kiss and Go, and to that extent I'll liaise with the traffic engineers in Mr. Kearsley's area. For bad driver behaviour, we'd probably need to engage with Highway Patrol, VicPol Highway Patrol, doing illegal U-turns and doing it. That's beyond my area of jurisdiction. But yes, we'll certainly start looking at it in the first instance by just having our local RAWS officers and our parking compliance officers out there at the peak hour time and see if we can at least bring some change of behaviour. Sometimes just the fact that they see people in the area makes some change. But I think it's going to be a multi-agency approach to this. So it's taken on board, and it'll be on our program.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman. Deputy Mayor Formosa.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman. I appreciate that. I would hate for something to occur, and it's very likely with the things that I've been seeing.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, if I may just, if there's any way, Councillor, that you can, through the school, have the school try and impress on their students.
Yes.
And that the students can impress on their parents.
Yes.
I mean, at the end of the day, it might be our officers. At the beginning of the day, it's behaviour that, in partnership with the school, hopefully that's where it should start to have some changes. The school went to a lot of trouble to get the speed brought down in the area outside of the school. We've got the pedestrian crossings, we've got everything. And I think we need to work in collaboration with the school. It would be good for the school to put something out to their students and to their parents.
Thanks, Mr. Bosman. I agree. I absolutely believe we should be liaising with the school. I have actually not seen any other school have as many crossing points as this school does, and yet such a small amount of students using it, so that would be great. I would appreciate anything that we can do in that space. Speaking of schools, I would really like to commend the council for providing a school resource breakfast resource kit. I just wanted to ask the appropriate officer if we are contacting all of the schools to make this known to them and ensure that all of the schools have access to this, because I make it a regular thing at the start of every lesson to actually ask how many students have had breakfast that day before school has started, and I can guarantee that 90% of the time, less than half of the students have raised their hand to say that they've had breakfast, which is extremely concerning. So just wanted to know if we have contacted the schools to inform them of this incredible initiative and resource that we're providing to the local schools.
Thank you. Ms Gillies, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Formoso. Yes, to my understanding, 92 schools have been contacted in relation to this resource, which is the majority of schools within the municipality. I believe there's 97 or 98, don't quote me, but certainly we can come back and confirm when the remainder have been contacted as well.
Thank you, Ms Gillies. Just letting you know there's 1 minute left.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Ms Gillies, appreciate that. Last question, so good timing. I've had a couple of residents contact me about some of the antisocial behaviour that's happening at Browns Road Reserve. They have been calling VicPol and doing all of the necessary things, obviously, but they're concerned that the lighting there is insufficient. So if we could have a look at doing a bit of a lighting audit for Browns Road Reserve, that'd be greatly appreciated. So if the appropriate officer could respond, and then that's all from me. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Mr Keasley, please.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. We can certainly undertake an overall audit to see what the lighting levels are, and if not high enough, then depending on the nature of the ownership of the lights, we can take action on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Keasley. Thank you, Deputy. Councillor Tan, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I would like to pay my condolences to Mr Simon Green families for his passing. He is one of the great Labor politician leaders. He did a lot of advocacy for, especially with the strategy and all that for the past few years. So I just want to say sorry and very sad in these during times. So. This is my report from the last 2 weeks. I do had a privilege of attending the National Assembly, General Assembly 2023 from the 13th of June to 16th of June with my other 7 councillors and our CEO. So this organised by the Australian Local Government Association. So this year we had 1,100 people attended. So all the mayors, deputy mayor, councillors, CEO and executive from 537 councils. So this year Assembly also the program, which is also including the consideration of 260 of notice of motions, which is 2 part of City of Greater Dandenong. So I just want to congratulate our City, our Greater Dandenong Council as well for passing the motion. And in this year report, so we just want to highlight, so in the 2023-2024, with the federal budget priorities, so they allocating 100 million per year to help the council, which is addressing in housing, so 100 housing crisis, so which is a great initiative from the federal government. Also, I just also want to highlight in the report as well, we've got 3.1 billion, which is from the Commonwealth Federal Assistance Program. So now we all receive all the funding. So this is only half of the % of the income, tax income. So we need at least 1% income in future funding. So the the association, the local Australian government is working with the federal, also different level of state and federal government to discuss in terms of getting more assistance funding in the future. We also discuss about the future of local government, building skill shortage, a few about the change in local government, so in terms of urban change, change management, the voice to parliament and so on. And also I had a privilege of meeting the Premier of Australia and Minister and MP as well. On the 24th of June, I also attended the charity fundraiser. This is organised by the Sandown Greyhounds Racing Club, the Reaching Out Because We Can, and the Servants of the Two Hearts with yourself, Mayor. So it is a great organisation. They have been helping for a long time, so mainly they help the homeless people. So provide service, mainly meals, 150 meals a week, so handing out at the Noble Park Community Centre. They're also providing essential goods to homeless, which is like, for example, clothes, blankets, mattress and so on. They also help with the domestic family violence as well. So I just want to congratulate the CEO of those two organisations. My question for tonight, this is just regarding the previous question from Councillor Dark as well, regarding to the Leonard project to the relevant officer. So this is Leonard Avenue streetscape, so Noble Park upgrading. I know that's to do with the delay due to the contractor had difficulty with the underground completion. So for my question tonight, I've got two questions relating to this. The first one, just want to find out, so when can we get this project going? So what is the actual completion date? Second question, we do have a few concerns from our residents, mainly elderly and disability. So in terms of the parking, there's no disabled parking at the front due to the construction. So can we also look at any available disabled parking? At the moment, I know that there's only 2 parking spots, which is on the side of Cameron's Warehouse. So can we please help disabled people, especially people that need to enter the gym? Obviously, they have to go there twice a week, so there's nowhere for them to park the car. They have difficulty to go around. There's no ramp for them to go up to the gym. So is there anything that we can help them? That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tan. I'll put that question to Mr Kearsley, please.
Thank you, Councillor. As previously advised, I'm hoping that there'll be some resolution of some of those issues in the next 48 hours with the contractor. With regards to allocation of car spaces for disabled, the best options that we can look at would be relocating them at the particular time when the works are taking place where the current disabled parking is. We can't not work there. It's a matter of finding an appropriate location close by that complies with the standards to provide for access for people with disabilities to use their vehicle to then gain the access. So I'd be hoping that I'd be able to get some more information out to all councillors in the next couple of days once we've spoken to the contractor and once we get a better understanding of the contractor of what the timing is and how we can improve access to current shops as we go through. But you must realise that when you build in a shopping centre and it involves digging up and replacing the car parking area and the footpath, there's always going to be some level of impact, and what we're trying to do is to minimise that as best we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Councillor Tan.
Thank you, Ms Kearsley. My second question regarding to the 51A development, 51A Douglas development. Again, if we can write the letter to the Minister again through you, Mayor. So this is a really major issue in Noble Park Ward, especially from a lot of concern from the resident, as we know that the Minister hasn't really involved with the local government, with council to discuss with our 26 posting recommendation on the planning. So as we know now, it's 97 apartments that will be on that block, so which is 61 with 1 bedroom, 36 with 2 bedrooms, and they only provided 125 parking space, which is the bottom will be the that will be 800 square meters. That will be the retail shop. So so they will remove 3 of the red river gums. They shortage of 17 of for retail parking space, 59 shortage for car park for the residential. So this is a real concern in Noble Park with car parking as well. So if we can discuss with you to write an urgent letter to the Minister, maybe Mr Bosman can also help as well in terms of getting this process, meet the Minister and then talk to her about what can we do to amend any planning permit now. Thanks. before it's building starting. I'm not sure when, but when the construction is, but we have to amend it before they start the construction.
Thank you, Councillor Tan. Mr Bosman, did you want to respond?
Madam Mayor, thank you through yourself. Councillor Tan, the permit has already been issued. In terms of the Act, once the Minister for Planning issues the order, Council has 10 days within which to issue that permit, and they were very quick to remind us on day 9 that we had another day left to issue it. So the permit has already been issued. There's no opportunity at all to revisit the design for Council to do anything. As of today, we've already, since that permit, or since the Minister made that decision, we've already written 3 times to the state government, what used to be called DELP, what everybody knows as DELP, asking for a please explain and expressing our very significant disappointment at the decision. And all those issues that you mentioned are all the issues that we raised in our detailed objection to the proposal, and we want to know why they were ignored. Were they even taken into account? We want to know what process was involved. Did it go before an advisory committee, etc.? All of that has already, as I said, we've written now 3 times following up as to, please explain. If you think that it might help to also have a letter under the hand of the Mayor, we can assist by drafting something that can go under the hand of the Mayor as well, if one hasn't already gone out. And I'm happy to draft one for the Mayor's signature. But unfortunately, the permit has been decided on by the Minister. The permit itself has been issued in accordance with that order, and there's now no opportunity to change it. And sitting down with the Minister is not going to make any difference to that. The permit has been issued. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Bosman. But I would be happy for a letter under my name to be sent out.
Thank you. My question is, why is the Minister not contacting Council? I mean, why would they not meet with the local government? As we know that we adopted the structure plan for Noah Park, so even though the planning scheme doesn't even fit into our local government scheme, so in that area, even the heights of the building, it doesn't fit in the amended structure plan in Noah Park. So basically, in that location, you only can build up to 5-story. Now they're building six stories. So anything, that's what I don't really understand the relationship, because if you're going to do something in local government land, I mean, I know the lands belong to them, but it's also in the local government, in Greater Dandenong. So I don't know why they don't want to meet with Council. So that's why I just want to express my concern. So this is just the first building, so I'm just concerning about what's going to happen next. So the relationship and what we've done for the structure plan, that's a couple of years ago, and now it's going to be what we've done. It's not going to fit in what they building on the land. So if we can write a letter, or we can go meet them directly, just to discuss if we can amend it. I know that the permit is already done. If we can do anything to change it, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tan. It sounds like Mr Bosman's indicated that it might be a little bit too late for that, but we can give it a shot. Thank you, Councillor Tan. Councillor Long.
These are some of the events I've attended since my last formal meeting. The 7th of June, I attended an on-site meeting with the manager of Braco Chair Force in Dandenong South. The 9th of June, I attended a soccer match between Dandenong City and Werribee. Dandenong City won 1-0. From the 13th to the 16th of June, I attended a local government conference in Canberra. 16th of June, I attended a soccer match between Dandenong City and Western United. Western United won 2-0. 19th of June, I attended a Disability Advisory Committee meeting. 20th of June, I attended an on-site meeting with council officers and representatives of the Springvale Senior Citizens Club. 22nd of June, I attended an online meeting for Cultural Heritage Advisory Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Long. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Some personal news. some good personal news. I joined the illustrious club of grandmothers this week with the birth of my little granddaughter Zara, and I have like 1,000 photos if anybody's interested, and would like to stay back till like midnight. And and I know what you're thinking. She's too young, but no, she is. She is here, and I am a grandmother. So exciting news. Other exciting news, one of the proudest days of my term in council was attending the soft launch of the One Tree Per Child event a couple of weeks ago, where 70 children and the young mayor and the mayor herself braved chilling, freezing, horrific weather to plant trees in Keysborough South. Those kids planted around about 70 trees. They now have that relationship ongoingly with those trees, and no doubt will come back throughout their lives and watch the development of those trees. And just a reminder, the late Olivia Newton-John started that program with John Dee, and in fact John Dee will be attending the big launch of the One Tree Per program, that child program, 28th, I think, 26th, something around there, of July. So that was a fantastic day. We also attended Canberra, and one of the really pleasing things was that the City of Greater Dandenong passed 3 important motions. One in relation to measuring the amount of emissions that we are taking part in, removing barriers for that, and also seeking federal funding. Also, a second motion recognising the disproportionate impact on vulnerable communities of climate change, and a third motion regarding supporting the asks of the Back Your Neighbour campaign. So very successful, very important that we were there, and they will now become part of the national agenda being put forward to the federal government. In terms of refugees and asylum seekers, we also had a number, and I'm sure the Mayor will talk about this as well, of successful meetings with federal members, and they were very successful in terms of continuing to advocate, particularly for those who are not part of the 19,000 who are on their pathway to citizenship, and the myriad of issues that they continue to face. So that was extremely pleasing. I personally met Member Kylie Tink and Allegra Spender, who are both deeply immersed in this issue and were enormously helpful. So that was incredibly important. It was also important to hear about all of the issues all of the councils around Australia are facing, and so many of them are what we are facing, around cost pressures, around climate change, around housing, and these big issues that all councils are facing. And it was great to be there to understand what people were facing themselves, and to be able to collectively push, for the federal government to assist on those issues. Madam Mayor, I want to raise a difficult and worrying issue. This relates to protection of our children on sporting grounds in the City of Greater Dandenong. I'm not sure how many of you are aware that Four Corners did an expose on this a couple of weeks ago, and in fact it was the South Springvale Soccer Club that was featured on that program. And that what was occurring is that we have men sitting in cars live streaming data about that game to international gamblers, with an insider on the program saying that millions of dollars are actually bet on these suburban games that no one knows about, that parents don't know about, that children don't know about. People are completely unaware that they are being commercialised, and also at risk in terms of match fixing and personally at risk by being immersed unwittingly and unknowingly in an international gambling syndicate. This is deeply concerning for all of us, particularly the fact that they are on council grounds, that this is happening. And so in light of that, I have 4 questions. I might ask them together and provide one answer. It might be the most efficient use of our time. Will the council write to our local, state and federal members, also the local, state and federal ministers responsible for gambling, and ask how they will protect the commercial exploitation of our children and protect them from the harmful predatory international gambling industry? My second question is, what steps will the council take to raise awareness among parents and young athletes and the broader community about the risks and dangers that are posed? Will the council establish a reporting mechanism or hotline to allow people to alert the council of this activity that's happening? And lastly, will the council collaborate with other councils and municipalities who are experiencing similar problems and to seek similar solutions?
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Ms Gillies, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Garrard, for your question and raising awareness around this really concerning trend that is impacting the country. And you're right, it's impacting local sports clubs primarily, and they're not even aware of it, sadly. What I'll note first up is that in July 2022, the Victorian Gambling and Casino Control Commission, the VGCCC, were established as the new independent regulator of Victoria's gambling industry. They've got stronger powers and a sharper purpose to ensure integrity, safety and fairness for all. So I'll address your questions in order, and I've pointed that out because I'm going to refer back to them shortly. Council most certainly can write to the VGCCC, I think would be appropriate. Sport and Rec Victoria is another one that I thought would be appropriate in terms of the overlay with sport and recreation. And relevant MPs raising our concern and seeking advice as to what mitigations are being put in place to safeguard our young people. Question number 2, per our council plan, council are committed to supporting community-based initiatives to address gambling harm and inform residents about the impacts of gambling and sources of assistance. So that's in terms of all impacts of gambling, this of course being one of those. I'll liaise with officers around identifying opportunities to raise awareness of the issue and education of how to mitigate the risk at a local level. I'm aware that the VCCC, I was having a look at their site today, have developed a broad range of fact sheets to aid in harm minimisation, which we could also share, and, if appropriate, advocate for further education resources on this issue specifically. In relation to the complaints hotline or mechanism that you mentioned, the VCCC have established a mechanism through which complaints and anonymous tip-offs can be made by concerned individuals of suspicious behaviour. While we certainly can promote the existing mechanism, City of Greater Dandenong establishing its own separate mechanism would require preparation of a report, obviously, for Council identifying the options and related resources. In the meantime, though, there is a mechanism that does exist, so perhaps it's about promotion of that. Question number 4, in relation to us working with other municipalities. Again, per our Council plan, we are committed and will continue to work with other municipalities and through particularly the Alliance for Gambling Reform with its advocacy campaigns on gambling trends. While this isn't a specific submission that they have made at this point, very recently they actually have made a submission around child grooming in terms of gambling-like features in computer games and mobile phones and the child grooming aspects of that. So they're certainly attuned to there being many, sadly, instances whereby our children and young people are being impacted by gambling, and this is something that goes internationally as well. So we will absolutely continue that work locally with other municipalities, but also with that peak body in terms of advocacy and trending.
Thank you, Ms Gillies. Councillor
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have 2 questions in relation to the movement of the urban growth boundary in relation to the Keysborough Golf Club. My first question is that given that the City of Greater Dandenong may be a beneficiary of the proposed sporting hub if the Minister for Planning approves the movement of the urban growth boundary, in light of this, will the Council seek legal opinion to determine if a conflict of interest exists for the Council in both supporting the proposed amendment and the benefiting from the subsequent development of the golf club?
Thank you, Councillor. Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, through yourself, Councillor Garrard, many planning scheme amendments have the potential to benefit Council in various ways, including from the provision of new community infrastructure, as might occur if this proposal is eventually approved by the Minister for Planning. As such, this planning scheme amendment would not be any different from many other proposed amendments, and therefore it's not considered that there will be a conflict of interest for Council in this matter, and I don't see any need to get legal advice on it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Bosman. Councillor Garrard.
I would urge our CEO to reconsider that in light of the Sandon report and in light of the what could be perceived as a conflict of interest. And whilst our officer may be confident, I think it would be prudent for us to seek a legal opinion, just to be clear about that. We don't want to be the subject of a Sandown report in the future. My next question is in relation to the term infill that has been used in relation to the Keysborough Golf Club. Can the council provide a planning definition of this term to clarify whether the current site, which is in fact surrounded on three sides by nothing, by the Green Wedge, and it would not on the surface qualify as infill? Can we have clarity on that, please?
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you. I think it's on two sides, Councillor.
Okay. There's that bit and there's that bit.
Plan Melbourne, which is a key planning document from the state government, defines infill development as development of unused or underutilised land in existing urban areas. It is considered that Keysborough Golf Club land as potentially underutilised site within an existing urban area would meet this definition. And so, yes, we're simply relying on the definition, and they would be relying, as anybody in the planning environment would be relying on infill development as understood in Plan Melbourne, and this is generally used in planning parlance. So the fact that it's got the urban growth boundary on, it's exposed to the urban growth boundary on, or the urban, the Green Wedge on two sides, doesn't take it out of the urban area. The urban growth boundary just prevents the further spread of urban development, but it would still qualify as potentially underutilised land within an urban area, and therefore would be by definition infill development if it was to be developed. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Bosman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My last question for tonight is, can the council confirm that the section of the Green Wedge, known as the Keysborough Golf Club, has never been officially termed an anomaly? And I refer the council to page 35 of the report from the Urban Growth Boundary Anomalies Advisory Committee in 2012, which stated that they did not consider this matter and therefore it has not been determined as an anomaly.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, Councillor Garrard, you're right. They didn't determine it to be an anomaly. On the 27th of February 2012, and the council meeting of that date, council adopted a notice of motion to include the Keysborough Golf Club in the review of the Urban Growth Boundary Anomalies Advisory Committee. And as such, council has a resolution in place that supports the site as being an anomaly. However, when the advisory committee considered all of the proposed anomalies, as you mentioned, the submission relating to this site was not considered by the committee then at that time. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Mr Bosman. Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Councillor Trung.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. As you know, my job is to provide the free COVID kits to the people. During the COVID the pandemic, I provide over 36,000 closed face masks to the people around. And, you know, earlier this year, I worked with SAMVAC and with, you know, to help the health department to provide out about over 100,000 red kits and also around over 40,000 face masks. And early of May, last month, I cooperate with Ms. Marisa Nathaniels, the Emergency Management Officer of the City of Dandenong, and to provide that kits to the 18 association and also the 41 shop. And I keep on to do that with the face mask, red kits, and also hand toys. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Trung. Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor, and if I may, give the third report in the trilogy regarding the Philippine Independence Day celebrations. So, Councillor Dark, Councillor Formoso, and now myself going to different celebrations. The one I attended was Springvale City Hall, June the 18th. And the interesting fact there, I won't go into great detail, but as you can imagine, all the food, festivities, fashion and fun and dancing of the Filipino community was on display. The interesting thing was that the leadership of the Consul General in tying together all the different Filipino organisations to come together under the one banner. So that was the largest Filipino celebration I've seen in the city of Greater Dandenong, and I hope it continues. It was a great one. Moving on, at the National General Assembly, found out about the Young Mayors program. I visited the booth with the CEO, and I think this may have some potential for the city of Greater Dandenong, given that we already have a junior mayor. The Young Mayors program extends the concept of public voting, so it's got the benefits of training or making younger people aware of how voting works, how important it is to vote, etc., and that they do things like go around the schools, set up voting booths at the schools where the students can vote for the young mayor. So I think there's some benefits and potentially external funding, which always helps, rather than council bearing the total responsibility of that. So a question to the CEO is, could you please investigate the feasibility and benefits of the City of Greater Dandenong participating in this program?
Thank you, Councillor
Through
Riley.
you, Mayor, certainly will do.
Thank you, Ms Wetherell. Any further questions? Okay. Thank you, Councillor. Firstly, I'd just like to say on behalf of Council, would like to recognise the great work of our immunisation team, who last week won a national award recognising the City of Greater Dandenong for excellence in immunisation access for priority populations. And this is a fantastic recognition of the innovative services that Council provides. So thank you to the community strengthening team for the great work. And I guess my council report, I'll just go through a few. Many of them have been mentioned, but I did attend Wellsprings for Women presentation by the Parliamentary Secretary for Training and Skills, Nina Taylor, and Wellsprings for Women won the 2022 Learn Local Award for Cultural Cuisine. So if anyone has tried the delicious food that Cultural Cuisines provides, they will I guess agree with this award. I too, along with a couple of my councillors, attended the SEMA 20th Anniversary Gala Dinner. I also attended Friends of Refugees, who were visited by Premier Daniel Andrews. It was a great opportunity for the Premier to see the great work that Friends of Refugees do. So I think Sri Sammy was quite grateful for that opportunity. Like many of my fellow councillors, I attended the Australian Local Government Association National Assembly and also attended the 2023 Australian Council of Local Government in Canberra. It was a great opportunity to network with other councils and hear from other councils about what they're doing in certain areas, whether it be aged care, whether it be in the environment, sustainability. There were so many different opportunities for that networking to take place. We also heard from numerous speakers, including the Minister of Infrastructure, Transport, Regional Development and Local Government. As previously mentioned, we also heard from the Leader of the Opposition, and I did throw out there an invitation to visit Dandenong. And also we heard from the Prime Minister and many others. This was also a great opportunity to promote the mayoral task force that for people seeking asylum that the City of Greater Dandenong is the secretariat for. And we did this through, again, networking, conducting a morning tea at the event, and we certainly had a lot of interest from other local government councils, including those from interstate. So hopefully we will see more councils come on board the task force, but it was again another opportunity, as Councillor Garrard reported, that it was a great opportunity for us to meet with federal MPs and ministers. I, in particular, met with Senator David Pocock staffer and also with Claire O'Neill and Jed Kearney. So it was actually really important to be able to capitalise on that, because we know how busy our federal ministers are. So it was a perfect opportunity whilst in Canberra to get in the ear of our MPs and press the importance of the priorities of the Back Your Neighbour campaign and the mayoral task force. Speaking of asylum seekers, we did celebrate Refugee Week last week, and so there were a number of events, and I attended the special Refugee Week citizenship ceremony hosted by the Department of Home Affairs and Refugee Communities Association of Australia. So I believe there were about 160 people that were made Australians at this, so another lovely citizenship ceremony. We also had the City of Greater Dandenong Refugee Week event, where the Minister for Immigration, the Honourable Andrew Giles, came all the way from Reservoir after being in Canberra for a couple of weeks, attended this specifically to share in the celebrations of Refugee Week and express the importance of supporting our refugees. And another Refugee Week event was hosted by the Melbourne United soccer team, which is a multicultural, predominantly women from Afghanistan who are playing soccer, and it reminded me of the movie Bend It Like Beckham, where certain girls are limited and they require extra supports to make the most of their talent in the sporting field. Many girls perhaps don't necessarily get the approval of their parents to play sport, and so it is sporting clubs like this that give them encouragement, give them confidence, and give them, I guess, that extra skill to go further. I also attended the consecration and blessing of the newly renovated St Anthony's Church and MacKillop Chapel in Noble Park, a church that I do frequently attend, but it was a great opportunity to celebrate the renovations with my fellow parishioners, but also, I guess, once in a lifetime experience of viewing the consecration of an altar. And just this weekend attended I'm not going to pronounce this right, so apologies in advance, the Ngā Viri Kawa Kawa night celebrations hosted by the Fijian Community Association of Victoria, and it was attended by Fiji's High Commissioner, so it was actually a really lovely event to attend and celebrate Fijian culture and festivities. And that same night with Councillor Tan attended the charity fundraiser in support of Reaching Out Because We Can and Servants of the Two Hearts. So that's been a busy couple of weeks for myself and my fellow councillors. And we'll move on to asking the CEO if there are any questions to be taken on notice from the last council meeting.
Yes, Madam Mayor, and they'll be attached to the minutes.
Thank you, Ms Weatherall. Item 7, urgent business. As there is no urgent business, I declare the meeting closed at 9:56 p.m. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy your evening.